Chapter 1021. The luxurious cruise ship sailed through the white waves. Not to mention Heaven Realm. Even the space above the 7th floor of Tong Tian Tower could easily reach the level of an airship. Because of Yu Yang, the Yu clan's mechanical puppet technology advanced by leaps and bounds. In the soaring dragon continent, if any rich person didn't have a carriage or airship that could fly, they wouldn't be called a rich person, but a local tycoon. But in White River City, the situation was just the opposite. The people here, no matter how big or how good the ship was, they wouldn't pull it into the sky. Instead, they would throw it into the water. They didn't care about speed, they just wanted the feeling. The rich people here liked the feeling of sailing on the water. Why would they care about the petty bourgeoisie who liked to pee against the wind? In the eyes of Yu Yang, the way the people of White River City did it was purely a pain in the ass. However, there might be some deeper meaning. Although the hybrid fishmen of White River City were the traders of Tong Tian Tower, deep down, or perhaps subconsciously, they still wanted to preserve something from Tong Tian Tower. Or perhaps they wanted to differentiate themselves from the other races in Heaven Realm, purposely standing out from the crowd to protect their remaining self-esteem. No matter what the situation was, Yu Yang didn't care. These hybrid fishmen could do whatever they wanted. Idiocy wasn't contagious anyway. Aren't you going to the ball and party? Qing Ping came to Yu Yang's side unknowingly. She hesitated slightly, but finally sat beside Yu Yang, who was sunbathing on the deck. Why must we go to that kind of boring party? 1/3 of the people there are humans like us, and 80% are tourists like us. The tourists on the ship came from all over the world. Although they didn't know each other, they could meet strangers in any city in Heaven Realm at any time. Nothing new. On this luxurious cruise ship, there are close to 2,000 people. Other than service staff like you who belong to White River City, there isn't a single beauty from White River City who went to the misty wave sea to play. I'm not interested in partying with tourists everywhere. More than that, I want to see the beauty of White River City. Yu Yang expressed his regret that he couldn't see White River City's beauties. Because we grew up here, we have already experienced the scenery of the misty wave sea. That was why very few people went to play. Moreover, there are especially many tourists this year. In order to be courteous to the tourists, we, the natives who have seen the scenery of the smoke wave sea, naturally have to give up our seats. Qing Ping was startled by Yu Yang's observational skills and quickly explained. Of course, she understood why the tourists on this ship were almost all the human tourists in the city. He also understood why there was a carnival and cocktail party on the first day. These were secrets that very few people knew. With regards to Yu Yang, this pervert, Qing Ping was a little curious. This guy was obviously very lecherous, so why wasn't he interested in the ball? Based on his tone, it seemed that he was more interested in the women of White River City than the women of White River City. Why was he so disdainful towards the women who were either human or foreign tourists? It was inconvenient for Qing Ping to probe further, so she could only smile and say, "If it weren't for the fact that I have to accompany His Royal Highness to attend the banquet later, I definitely wouldn't have left you here to bask in the sun alone. Why don't I help you find someone to chat with?" It must be a White River City beauty dressed in sexy clothes with a hot figure. No need for ugly people. Yu Yang ordered without hesitation. "Okay, I'll go ask and see if the attendant is free." Qing Ping almost wanted to kick this pervert off the ship. Dressed in sexy clothes with a hot figure? Who do you think you are? When Qing Ping left and walked into the Starfish Hall, old Anchor, who was dressed as the chief mate, brushed past her and suddenly said, "No matter what, we must make him leave the deck before 6 o'clock tonight. Our plan has already begun. We cannot let one person, or even a small accident, affect the process." Qing Ping nodded, but the expression on her face darkened. She understood the meaning of the higher-ups. It was because this weirdo Yu Yang had unexpectedly gone to the ship's bow deck to bask in the sun, affecting the original plan. If they wanted the original plan to be carried out smoothly, they had to make him leave the bow deck. This task ultimately fell on her. What could she do to make him leave? For this kind of person, the easiest way was to seduce him. However, Qing Ping wasn't too willing to do so. She didn't like perverts and preferred a refined, courteous and handsome prince like Prince Tianluo. Now that her superiors wanted her to leave the prince and go seduce that big pervert, even sacrificing some of her looks to achieve her goal, she felt helpless. If she could avoid seducing him, she would not want to make such a sacrifice. Although this pervert was good-looking and could be said to be the most handsome and fatty highs in Yi Kong's team, appearance was just appearance. It did not equate to his heart. Your Highness, even if we join the banquet, why don't we call Mr. Yu Yang along? He seems to be quite bored outside alone. Qing Ping quickly found Prince Tianluo, hoping that he would persuade Yu Yang to leave the bow deck and return to the inner cabin, so that the original plan would not be affected. However, Prince Tianluo smiled and shook his head. Sightseeing is to relax. If he likes to bask in the sun, let him go. There's no need to force him. Moreover, his relationship with Master Hai and the others is not good. They would definitely quarrel when they meet. It's better to separate and choose their own way to relax. Qing Ping felt dizzy. Your Highness, what you said makes sense, but this matter could not be decided like that. If that pervert did not leave, he might be killed in advance. Don't care about him. Shuetan Lang immediately rejected the idea of inviting Yu Yang to the banquet. Yes, it's best to let the sun burn him to death, dry him, or at least turn him into charcoal. Fatty Hai waved his hands and feet as he shouted, "Can I even bask in the sun?" Yi Kong's unintentional words made Qing Ping slightly shocked. If this blockhead's rebellious heart rose and clamored to go bask in the sun, it would be terrible. He would definitely lose his life. She hurriedly changed the topic and smiled. I heard that in this year's banquet, there will be a kind of black blood wine made from black blood dragon eel and myriad sunflower magic juice, mixed with purple spot grapes. The taste is very unique. No matter if it's a man or a woman, drinking this wine will make one's body stronger and beautify. We must definitely go and try it. I heard that it also has the effect of boosting one's vigor. Fatty Hai smiled wretchedly. Very good, it suits you. Yi Kong nodded his head in affirmation. You poor monkey who can't even wear a B-length miniskirt. What did you say? If you dare to challenge this young master, be careful that this young master will push you back to the Five Fingers Mountain. Fatty Hai was a typical example of one of the people poisoned by the journey to the West ancient book. No matter what, I'm still better than you, Bajia. Don't think that you can be very arrogant just because your meat is expensive. Yi Kong retorted with a sneer, causing Fatty Hai to roll his eyes. Expensive meat is better than cheap meat. We can sell it for a good price. Li Chia laughed loudly. No hurry, let's fatten it up a little more. Li Chia's gaze was as if he was sizing up where to cut it. Qing Ping was speechless listening at the side. This group of fellows really didn't have the slightest bit of nervousness. She didn't know how this trip to the Smoky Waves Sea would end. Most likely, they wouldn't be able to return, but what could she do? For people like them who love to joke around and cause trouble, even if she vaguely mentioned them, they would probably be ignored, right? Moreover, for the revival of White River City, how could she side with outsiders? Even if they were the most outstanding men in the world, it would still be impossible. The wine party was about to start. Qing Ping looked at the time and realized that there wasn't much time left before it was 6 o'clock. She was even more anxious in her heart. Although that pervert was hateful, it wasn't even 3 days later. If he were to die today, it would really be a pity. Although this fellow was very lecherous, he didn't deserve to die. If the slave merchants were able to transport enough human slaves in time, with enough fresh blood, wouldn't he have died in vain? Finding an excuse, Qing Ping anxiously rushed over. She hoped to be able to pull that pervert into the wine tasting hall. If he continued to lie on the bow deck and bask in the sun, he would definitely die. In a hurry, after 7 or 8 turns, when she walked out of the Starfish Hall, Qing Ping was stunned to find a mermaid hybrid wearing a sexy swimsuit lying beside that big pervert, laughing and playing with him. Qing Ping naturally knew this mermaid hybrid. This was the water spider with the most vicious heart in White River City. The men that had been with her were either dead or crippled. None of them had a good ending. Oh, you're so bad, you're so bad. The water spider lay beside him, her body close to his. Her swimsuit was half undone, and Qing Ping saw that one of his hands had already reached into the water spider's swimsuit. Women don't like bad men. Haha, I didn't expect you to be so sensitive. A certain big pervert laughed loudly. Just as his fingers were about to go deeper, Qing Ping rushed over and pulled his hand out. She angrily asked, "What are you doing?" A certain pervert raised his shoulders, indicating that it was already obvious. "Didn't you see?" When the water spider saw that it was Qing Ping, she secretly snorted. She pulled back a certain pervert's hand and pressed it against her swimsuit. It was obvious that she wanted to open the door and let the thief in. When Qing Ping saw the ecstatic pervert on a certain pervert's face, she immediately grabbed him and stared into his eyes under his sunglasses. "Do you know who she is?" A certain pervert was curious. "Didn't you call her over? I know you're jealous. Come, come, come. There's still space here. Let's play together. Don't worry, I'm full of energy. 1 versus 2 is no problem. You disappoint me." Qing Ping was extremely angry. This kind of pervert deserved to die. She didn't need to care about him. She saved him, yet he actually wanted to fight 1 versus 2. He didn't even know he was at death's door. She was talking about this kind of lecherous fool. "It's fine if you don't like 1 versus 2. I'll conquer this little vixen first. Come quietly at night. I'll definitely leave a door open for you. Leave your head." Qing Ping really couldn't hold back her anger. She kicked a certain pervert into the moon-shaped swimming pool on the bow deck. The water spider coldly glanced at Qing Ping, then silently laughed sinisterly. She waited until Yu Yang floated up from the water. She immediately put on a sweet smile, stretched out her pure white hands, and pulled him up. Pretending to use too much strength, she pulled him down onto her body. When Qing Ping left angrily, the corners of her lips curled up into an imperceptible smugness, as if to say, "You want to fight with me? You're still too inexperienced." Old Iron Anchor brushed past Qing Ping again. His expression was very ugly, and he said the same thing that Qing Ping had said before, "You disappoint me." Because of these words, Qing Ping continued to taste the wine. She kept feeling that her mouth was very bitter and astringent. In the next 2 days, the luxurious cruise ship sailed to the destination of the Rainbow Fish Tide in the Smoky Wave Sea, attracting waves of cheers from the tourists. Fatty Hai, Yi Kong, and the others played very happily, jumping into the ship one after another to swim with the fishes. A certain big pervert who had been kicked into the swimming pool by Qing Ping seemed to have completely changed his mind. Now, he was mingling with the other tourists. Of course, the one accompanying him now was the water spider, who tried her best to tease him but refused to stay the night in his room. Qing Ping was about to return to her room when the guests of the luxurious cruise ship were done with their fun, when she suddenly heard a voice from behind her. Her face immediately turned as white as paper, because that person's voice said, "The slave hasn't arrived yet. The plan will proceed as planned. However, due to your abnormal behavior, the higher-ups have decided to disqualify you from participating. You will now return to your room and reflect on your mistakes. You can only come out after you've returned to White River City and obtained approval from the higher-ups." Qing Ping's lips trembled, but in the end, she lowered her head and obediently replied, "Yes." Chapter 1022. Qing Ping returned to her room, lay on the bed, closed her eyes, and rested quietly. Her breathing was even and long, as if she had fallen asleep. She gave people the feeling as if nothing had happened. Everything was as usual. A few hours passed, except for the dinner that was delivered by the guard at the door. She kept this sleeping posture, motionless. Night gradually fell. After 2 days of revelry, the tourists on the ship, no matter how energetic they were inevitably a little tired. Unlike usual, tonight's evening ball was announced to be over at about 10 o'clock. Everyone hugged their partners and went back to rest. Only a few particularly energetic young people still didn't want to sleep. Dozens of people with girls and drinks ran to the sea-watching tower on the top of the ship to watch the stars. Stargazing, such a literary thing, was never a group activity. But in the high sky, facing the wind to fight a group battle, This kind of behavior was more in line with the interests and exuberance of young people. When they were playing crazily and excitedly, a group of uninvited guests broke in, but they didn't join in, but waved the life-harvesting sickle, taking away the lives that were in the carnival. Blood bloomed like flowers. Life withered like fallen leaves. The killing, no one knew when it began, silently and constantly. It turned out that Qing Ping, who had been sleeping with her eyes closed, her eyes suddenly opened sharply. Her eyes were shining, lighter than smoke, more dexterous than a leopard cat. Qing Ping silently opened the door, struck the back of the guard's neck, and gently dragged the catfish-like guy into the room. A minute later, a shadow dressed in a guard's uniform walked out of the room. The shadow lowered his head slightly, gliding forward at high speed and silently. When meeting each patrolling guard on the ship, the shadow would say in a deep male voice, "The glory of the ancestors." And the guard who heard it would immediately stand at attention respectfully and answer, "Glory to the present." The shadow quickly passed the VIP area, which was only for the rich to rest. Along the corridor, it kept flying. Only when he reached a luxurious suite decorated with golden laurel leaves did he stop in his tracks. When the shadow reached out to touch the door handle, there was a second of hesitation, as if he wanted to give up his plan. But a second later, the shadow took a deep breath, rejected the hesitation, and strengthened his belief. Before holding the doorknob and opening the door, the shadow cautiously looked around. It was late at night and seemed to be very safe. No one had appeared in this VIP area, and there was nothing suspicious hiding in the darkness. The shadow clenched his teeth. Grabbing the doorknob, he twisted it forcefully and slid inside. While silently hiding inside the room, he cleverly closed the door without making a sound. Pop-pop, someone was clapping in the dark. Then, bright lights illuminated the entire hall of the luxurious suite. After the shadows adapted for a short while, they could clearly see that there were 3 people inside. One was a gorilla-like muscle man, his eyes full of mockery. The other was Water Spider, who had the upper hand over Yu Yang for the past 2 days. There was no mockery in her eyes, but rather a kind of matter-of-fact, as if she believed that Qing Ping would definitely do so. The last person was Old Anchor, dressed in his first mate's uniform. Now, he no longer looked like a dejected sailor laborer, but more like a majestic king. The way Old Anchor looked at Qing Ping was different from the other 2. His eyes were full of sorrow and regret. The shadow saw him. Her whole body swayed slightly, as if in fear, but also as if in relief. The shadow slowly took off her helmet, revealing her true appearance. It was Qing Ping, who had pretended to be quiet and had suddenly attacked the guards and escaped. "Why?" Old Anchor asked, a little confused. "I don't know. There's no special reason." Qing Ping's pale face revealed a bitter smile that would immediately make anyone feel pity for her. Her lips trembled a little, and so did her hands, as if she couldn't bear the blow, and her whole body swayed a little. "Reason? I know you're a lascivious slut who likes those gigolos. For their face, you're willing to betray your own people. Stinking whore, I told you long ago that you can't be relied on. Now I'm right, am I? When the blood-mustering plan began, you pretended to think about it, thinking that you could deceive us and sneak here to release your adulterers. Unfortunately, your plan will never succeed. I've seen through you long ago. You're obviously a whore who can sleep with anyone, and yet you still pretend to be some holy pearl girl. Only that idiot brother of mine would believe you." The gorilla-like muscle man sneered venomously. Qing Ping's lips moved slightly, but in the end, she didn't defend herself. The coquettish Water Spider clicked her tongue and laughed. The power of love is said to be the greatest in the world. Fu Ping did nothing wrong. She gave up her life for her lover and betrayed her own people for her lover. How touching! I'm almost moved to tears. Old Anchor looked at Qing Ping. After a long time, he let out a long sigh. "Actually, among the younger generation, you're the one I'm most optimistic about. Compared to the strongest of the younger generation, the wind ape, and the water spider who absorbs the most energy and contributes the most to our people, you're still the one I'm most optimistic about. Although I wasn't the one who gave birth to you, I've always treated you as my daughter. All your knowledge, life skills, and combat skills were taught by me. You're undoubtedly the smartest of a younger generation. A few old men, and I have always thought that the one who will inherit the position of city lord in the future will be you, the smart girl who inherited the most ancestral blood. Even if you can't be smart, I believe that you'll still be the city lord's wife and mother. Your future is limitless, Fooping. Why did you choose this path? Do you know what it means? It means that you're betraying the people who gave birth to you and raised you. I'm very sad. When you returned to your room to reflect, I always hoped that you would listen to my orders. But you, of all people, appeared here. You disappoint me. Do you remember what I taught you? Let me tell you, no matter what race or what kind of man, no one will accept us, the Cursed Clan. We, the Cursed Clan, can only ever marry within our clan. We can't marry outside, nor can we marry outside. I've told you long ago, when you're on a mission, don't let your true feelings get involved. You've always done well, so why did you fall so easily into the hands of a few pretty boys? Other than their good looks, what else do they have? They have no strength, no experience. If not for the support of a clan behind them, they would have been robbed and killed by mercenaries or bandits long ago. It's a bunch of spoiled brats like these that you actually fell in love with them. I really don't understand. If you fell in love with a powerhouse above heaven rank level 5, then I can somewhat understand. But Fooping, my daughter, how did you become so ignorant? Hearing this, Qing Ping remained silent. She didn't defend herself, nor did she completely agree with old Anchor's words. She still insisted on her own opinion. Love always makes people blind. Ha ha. Actually, I quite like that pretty boy, too. It's a pity that he's going to turn into blood plasma tonight. Otherwise, I'd really want to absorb his energy. Other than his handsome face, that part of him is also very good. No one can compare to him. It's really a pity to turn him into a blood sacrifice. Water Spider looked at Qing Ping's expression and deliberately said this to provoke her. Unfortunately, Qing Ping was still unmoved. The gorilla-like muscular man walked out proudly. Stinking whore, kneel down and accept your death. Old Anchor snorted. The gorilla and Water Spider quickly shut up, bowing their heads solemnly as they waited for his orders. Old Anchor stared at Qing Ping's small, pale face, his murderous intent flashing. He had already raised a large hand, as if he was going to kill Qing Ping. The gorilla and Water Spider lowered their heads in silence, but their faces were secretly delighted as they waited for Qing Ping's death. However, Old Anchor didn't kill her in the end. He even put his hand down. Fooping, my smartest otter, I'll give you one last chance now. As long as you kill them with your own hands, I'll forgive your mistake this time. Marshal? The gorilla and Water Spider panicked and hurriedly tried to dissuade him. Shut up, both of you. Old Anchor snorted angrily. The two of them trembled in fear, like chicks in a storm with nowhere to hide. Qing Ping suddenly knelt down. She respectfully kowtowed to Old Anchor. At first, there was a hint of joy on Old Anchor's face, thinking that Qing Ping had decided to repent. However, Qing Ping's next words made his hair stand on end. It was because what Qing Ping said was, "Marshal, my teacher, my most respected father, please forgive me." I wouldn't do that. Old Anchor's furious outburst of energy almost pulverized the entire hall. With great difficulty, he managed to suppress it. Why? You tell me, why is that? With your intelligence, you should know that I've already captured them all. They're dead for sure. Why do you still insist on doing this? Whether you do it yourself or not, they're dead for sure. You know that. A bitter smile appeared on Qing Ping's pale face. She shook her head. I knew it would be like this when I was outside, but I still came in. Marshal, if you ask me why, I can't tell you. I've only known them for a few days, and I'm on a mission. I've always reminded myself not to let my feelings affect my mission. But I can't do that. I find myself yearning for their lives. Even when they're arguing, it's more reassuring than when we're singing. They're completely harmless. Here, everyone's life has a purpose, a goal, and for that purpose and goal, we'll do things that hurt others, including myself. I used to be the same. Before, I didn't think it was wrong, but after meeting them, I realized that my life was very boring. I want to live freely like them, laugh when I want to laugh, cry when I want to cry, say whatever I want to say, like whoever I want to like, go wherever I want to play. I don't want to be a traitor. I think this kind of life is very tiring. I want to live like a normal person. I want to pursue what I want like a normal person. You think they'll accept you? Old Anchor asked angrily. Which one of them do you think will like you? No, not a single one of them likes me. They all treat me very well and treat me as a friend, but not a single one of them likes me. This is the most painful and lamentable part of me. Qing Ping's pale face was filled with sincerity. That's right. They won't accept you. They won't accept the cursed tribe. Why are you still so stupid? Old Anchor roared. I don't know why either. Qing Ping shook her head in pain. My rationality knows that they and I are completely different, people from two different worlds. I shouldn't be with them. But my rationality has defeated the hope in my heart. I won't be with them. Even if they won't accept me, even if I'm a cursed tribe and can't be with them, I still have this desire. Kill them, and you'll become one of us again. Old Anchor shouted in a low voice. No, Qing Ping shook her head and refused. Even if I die, I won't hurt them. Marshall, my father, please allow me to call you father for the last time. Please forgive my stubbornness. In the future, please pretend that you never had me as your disciple and daughter. I really want to become a human, not a murloc. I know it's impossible, but I still want to be more accepting of people. I hope that in my next life, I can become a human and live with them. You're ridiculous. Old Anchor was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Several times, he wanted to kill Qing Ping, but in the end, he suppressed his anger and took a deep breath. I'll give you one last chance. Tell me which man you like, and I'll use the cursed blood to make him one of us. Marshall, the gorilla and water spider were shocked. Even now, the marshals still hoped to save Qing Ping. Qing Ping was also stunned. She first felt a surge of joy, thinking that there was a chance for things to turn for the better. But then she shook her head. I can't do that. They can die, but we can't taint them. I don't like anyone. No, I don't like anyone in particular. Just kill them. I'd rather they die than see them become murlocs. Objection overruled. Throw her into a cell and find the man she likes the most. Kill the rest. Old Anchor pressed his hand on Qing Ping's head. A special energy unlocked the ancient curse of betrayal in her body. Qing Ping screamed in pain, and purplish-black ancient runes appeared all over her body. I'll give you 1 hour. You can bring the man you like and come back to me. If you don't come back after this time, you'll be turned into a puddle of blood by the ancient curse. Old Anchor's large hand waved heavily. Water Spider immediately grabbed the exhausted Qing Ping in his hand like an eagle grabbing a chick. With a few sinister chuckles, he disappeared in a flash. The muscular gorilla was a little anxious. Marshall, Qing Ping clearly belongs to my brother. How can she be taken by an outsider? Even if that kid has turned into a body like ours under the influence of the cursed blood, it's hard to avoid harboring evil intentions. And the ancient curse in Qing Ping's body has already been unlocked. If there's no male's cursed blood to neutralize it within an hour, she'll melt into a puddle of blood and die. Even if that kid accepts the cursed blood, he's still in the process of transforming. There's no way he can immediately. My brother isn't here either. It'll be such a pity if she dies like this. Old Anchor glared at him. Water Ape, do you mean to say that you want to do it for her? The muscular gorilla didn't dare to meet Old Anchor's eyes. He lowered his head and replied, Qing Ping is the most beautiful of the younger generation. She's still a virgin because she's being groomed to be the future wife of the city lord. If she melts into a puddle of blood and dies, it'll be such a waste. My brother isn't here, don't you think? Marshall, I've always been loyal to you. Water Ape, to be honest, I wanted Qing Ping to bring a lover out as a delaying tactic. I won't trust or accept a human at all. Moreover, a large amount of pure human blood is needed to resurrect the ancestors. These two are the most suitable choices. One less may not be enough to meet the requirements for resurrection. Qing Ping was confused for a moment. I hope she realizes her mistake. Water Ape, I'm aware of your pursuit of her. Although you're not the most outstanding of the younger generation, you're loyal enough. You've given 100% for your people. I'm quite satisfied with your performance. How about this? If your brother, Wind Ape, can't make it in time, I'll consider handing over the task of saving Qing Ping to you. But only this once. She's destined to become the future wife of the City Lord and the future mother of the City Lord. We've spent so much effort to groom her for the sake of the next generation. Old Anchor showed his gratitude to his subordinate, but also warned him not to be greedy. Thank you, Marshal. Water Ape will forever be loyal to you. The gorilla was overjoyed. He knelt down and kowtowed frantically, kowtowing as if he was pounding garlic. A row of dark bottom decks was temporarily set up as prison cells. From time to time, hybrid fishmen would enter and drag out some limp and defenseless humans. They would cut off their necks and let out their blood, collecting large amounts of fresh blood for later use. Water Spider came to a small bottom-deck prison cell. He ordered the guard to open the steel cover and threw Qing Ping inside. He laughed evilly. "My most beautiful and intelligent sister, please enjoy the last hour of your life with your beloved little lover." Qing Ping fell involuntarily onto someone's body with a thud. She raised her head and found that the person she had hit was actually the big pervert that she hated the most. What kind of situation is this? Even a beauty throwing herself into my arms while I'm in prison. It's all worth it. Yu Yang placed Qing Ping, who was in his arms, on the ice-cold bottom of the cabin. The attentive prince of Tian Luo didn't forget to spread his coat on top of her. Qing Ping was so moved that she almost shed tears. However, her moment of being moved was ruined by Yu Yang's actions. His wolfish hands were pressed on her towering breasts, pretending to feel her heartbeat. Luckily, this beauty that fell from the sky still has a heartbeat. Nonsense! Even a blind person can see that she's alive. Fatty Hai was furious. Even if she's dead, you can't touch her breasts. If she's dead, would she still care about me touching her? Yu Yang expressed that a dead person wouldn't object to him touching her breasts. But she's not dead yet. Fatty Hai almost fainted from anger. She's not dead, but she doesn't seem to have any objections. She likes it when I touch her. Yu Yang said that Qing Ping's silence was a tacit agreement. This kind of barbaric pervert theory almost made Qing Ping want to kick him into the sky. Wouldn't it be better to just admit that you're a pervert after touching her breasts? If she doesn't object, then I'll touch her too. Fatty Hai rolled up his sleeves, but before he could reach out, he was kicked to the ground by Yikong. Are you a pig? This is Sister Qing Ping. Yikong seemed to only recognize Qing Ping now. It's Sister Qing Ping, but it's fine if I touch her, right? I'm just worried about her. Fatty Hai still tried to argue back with sophistry. Concern about your head? Yikong told Fatty Hai to scram as far as he could. This way, Fatty Hai felt wronged. He pointed at Yu Yang and shouted that it was unfair. He touched her just now. Why didn't you say anything? He's taking advantage of her. Bajia, I'm really concerned about her. Look at the purple spots all over her body. She's probably going to die soon. Touching her is to satisfy her regret of never having been touched by a man in her life. This is a huge risk. What if these purple spots are contagious? Not good. Look at the purple spots spreading continuously. It's probably contagious. It's better to stay away from her. Yu Yang expressed that Qing Ping was 50% dead, and the other 50% was going to die soon. Is there any way? Shui Tan Lang suddenly asked. This ice cube guy's concern made Qing Ping, who originally wanted to bite Yu Yang to death, suddenly feel extremely touched. She never thought that this ice cube guy would also care about her. If it was His Royal Highness who cared about her, then it would be fine. However, this ice cube guy would never care about others. Prince Tian Luo carefully looked at the purplish-black runes on Qing Ping's skin and shook his head lightly. It's a very strong curse. It should have erupted from her soul and blood vessels. The eruption period is very short, and it's as ferocious as a flood bursting through a dam. It's basically aimed at destroying her race's body. It's impossible to dissolve. Forget about dissolving it. It's impossible to even alleviate it. It was unknown when Yu Yang took out a chicken drumstick and started to eat it. I've said it before. She's definitely going to die. In less than an hour, she'll melt into a pool of blood. Moreover, she'll die in extreme pain. Fatty Hai couldn't stand it anymore. She's going to die, and you're still eating chicken drumsticks? Yu Yang was curious. You mean that I'm going to cry? I'm not even close to her. If she dies, I'll just go back and tell Lu Yi about it. That little girl, with a strong sense of compassion, will lose a few golden beans. Fatty Hai heard this and became angry again. You're not close to her? If you're not close to her, why did you touch her chest? I'm so familiar with her, but I'm too embarrassed to touch it. You're too much. When Yu Yang heard this criticism, he smacked his lips unconcernedly. It's not like you'll lose a piece of flesh if you touch it. What's wrong with that? Aren't you afraid of getting infected? Fatty Hai immediately retracted his hand, as if he had been bitten by a snake. I'm a gentleman. I'll never take advantage of others when they're down. Prince, will touching be contagious? It should be. Prince Tian Luo said. Oh my God, I've always wanted to be an obedient child since I was young. Fatty Hai immediately screamed in fright and quickly hid behind Yi Kong's back. It's not a big deal to touch it. Since we're going to die soon, it'd be a waste not to touch it. Fatty, do you think we can walk out of this prison alive? Since we're going to die soon, we might as well enjoy ourselves. Although those curses are very scary, it's actually not bad. Yu Yang was different. His guts were bigger than the heavens. He actually touched her chest in front of everyone. Have you touched enough? Qing Ping almost fainted from anger. If you didn't say it, I would have thought that you liked it. Just now, I thought that you were secretly enjoying yourself, so I came over to play along with you. Don't you like it? Yu Yang's words could simply shock people to death. Qing Ping was so angry that she rolled her eyes. In the end, he still advised her seriously. The size of your chest is actually not that big. You should eat more papaya stewed milk. It's said that it can help your growth. Papaya stewed milk can help my growth? All right, I'll remember it. Fatty Hai took out a notebook and carefully recorded it down. He reckoned that this secret manual would be passed down to his descendants in the future. Together with a bedtime massage, you'll need at least 20 minutes. Yu Yang imparted his knowledge to Fatty Hai. Thank you, teacher. With Fatty Hai's performance, if he was in kindergarten, he would definitely get a little red flower. Stop messing around. Can you let me say a few words? Qing Ping had never seen a person who was about to die making such a fuss. She really didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Chapter 1023. There's no need to apologize if you want, because it's not your fault at all. Prince Tian Luo smiled slightly. Moreover, you've also been captured and brought here. We're not fools. Even if we don't know the details, how can we not understand after seeing this? Yi Kong nodded in agreement with Prince Tian Luo. A beauty can't be wrong. Even if there is, it's not her fault. Everyone was used to ignoring Fatty Hai, this idiot. It's not your fault. Even Xue Tanlang, this ice cube guy, opened his mouth. Thank you. Thank you all. Qing Ping was very touched. Those people who raised her up couldn't understand her, but these friends who schemed against her after only knowing her for a few days were so forgiving. Fatty Hai, Yi Kong, and the others weren't fools. They naturally knew what happened on the ship. In such a dangerous situation, they could still comfort her instead. How good would it be if they had such friends earlier? After Qing Ping heard the Li brothers' consolation, she waited for a while and realized that the big pervert Yu Yang didn't say anything and was still eating his chicken leg. She couldn't help but feel a little angry. Hey, big pervert, aren't you going to say something? They're done. What do you want me to say? Yu Yang waved his hand indifferently. Actually, it's just like that. You can figure out yourself. Qing Ping was speechless. Of course she could figure out, but she just wanted to hear him comfort her. Forget it. If she argued with this guy too much, her life would probably be shortened by a few years. In such a dangerous situation, Qing Ping decided not to vent her anger on this guy. She took a deep breath, adjusted her emotions, and tried to suppress the pain from the cursed power exploding in her body. Right now, we're in a very dangerous situation. It won't be long before someone comes in. At that time, I have something to tell you all. Maybe you don't know this, but I'm actually an undercover agent sent by someone else. Ever since I met the big pervert on the train that day, I've been working for a long time. My mission is to get close to you all and gather information about you. Why aren't you surprised at all? Fatty Hai, Yi Kong, and the others smiled but didn't say anything. Yu Yang shrugged his shoulders. Then how did your investigation go? Only now did Qing Ping come to a sudden understanding, and she cried out involuntarily, "So you knew long ago?" Fatty Hai tried his best to act as if he was a genius, as if he had seen through everything. Unfortunately, no one paid any attention to him. Fatty Hai could only dejectedly squat in a corner of the prison cell and draw circles on the ground. A tolerant smile appeared on Yi Kong's face. "It's not our first time walking in the Heaven Realm. How can we not be on guard at all? Actually, we're all on the same team." Whether it's Yu Yang, Lu Yi, Fatty, Ice Cube, or Prince, we're all brothers and sisters who came from the same place and have always been fighting side by side. Qing Ping's gaze swept past everyone's faces one by one before finally looking at Yu Yang. She gritted her teeth and said angrily, "I understand why little sister Lu Yi would acknowledge you as her master. You big pervert, you deceived me so badly. Don't tell me your names are fake." Yu Yang spread out his hands. "Is there a need for us to lie? Sometimes, no one will believe us if we tell the truth. For example, Lu Yi is really my disciple." Qing Ping wanted to bite him. She snorted, "I will never believe you again." "Huh." Yi Kong and the others couldn't help but laugh when they heard this. "Stop laughing. Qing Ping's curse has flared up. There's also a butcher's knife hanging above our heads. Let's quickly think of a way to escape." Fatty Hai felt that it was time for him to speak. He didn't forget to remind Qing Ping that he was the leader of this team. People called him the Roshan Demon King. Oh no, the Roshan local bully, no, the Roshan little flying dragon. "We can't escape. Even if we can leave the ship, we won't be able to escape. This is because this is the real Smoky Waves Sea with the restriction of the law. In the Smoky Waves Sea, there's a law that forbids flying. This is why all the ships in White River City don't have flying devices installed. In this place, not to mention flying, even walking on the waves is impossible. You need a ship to leave. You are already very careful, but it's not enough. In the Smoky Waves Sea, there's a kind of atonement fish. Its meat is very delicious, but once you eat its meat, within a month, you will be as weak as you are now. You will be deeply affected by the law of atonement. The most delicious and popular sashimi, the black pearl-like fish eggs, and the black blood wine that we tasted were actually made from the atonement fish. Only the people of White River City won't be affected by the atonement fish." Although Qing Ping was unwilling, she still spoke out the cruel reality. "We're poisoned and restricted by the law. What should we do now?" Fatty Hai, the self-proclaimed leader, suddenly had no idea. "Have a good sleep. When you wake up, you might find that it's just a nightmare." Yu Yang gave him a suggestion. Fatty Hai thought about it and felt that this was actually a good idea. They didn't need to do anything, just sleep. Moreover, it could also resolve the crisis. Can you guys be a little more serious?" Qing Ping was powerless to ridicule them. Look at the situation, they were still joking. The beautiful instructor is very instructive. Fatty Hai stood at attention. "Don't worry about him. Yi Kong sent him flying with a kick. There's always a way out. Even if things happen, there might be a way to resolve it. Don't be discouraged." Prince of Tian Luo calmly opened his mouth to comfort them. "Yes, that's right. There's always a way out." Qing Ping bit her lips, as if her confidence had been reignited in her chest. After a pause, she raised her eyes and looked at everyone, as if she wanted to deeply remember everyone's appearance in her heart. Fatty Hai was about to speak, but she reached out her hand to stop him. "Let me speak first. Listen to what I want to say in my heart first. They threw me in here because they wanted to save me. They have been working very hard to nurture me. Some of them are like my father. I am very grateful to them. But this gratitude can't replace the freedom in my heart. I don't want to be a cursed half-mermaid girl. I want to be like you guys. I want to be a normal human. Wait, listen to me first. They threw me into the prison because they thought that I fell in love with one of you. They agreed to let me bring one of you away and use the cursed blood to turn him into a mermaid. In other words, one of you might be able to survive in the form of a cursed mermaid." "What do you mean? You want us to choose someone to go with you?" Yi Kong immediately understood. I I'll be the first to sign up. Fatty High raised his hand impolitely. Is it okay to turn into a cursed mermaid? Moreover, it's not certain. There's only a possibility of survival. Qing Ping asked as she looked at Yi Kong, Prince of Tianluo, Shuetan Lang, Li Brothers and Yu Yang, as if she wanted to see their reaction. It's okay. It's fine as long as I can survive. Fatty High expressed that if he could survive, it would be fine to turn into a mermaid. Moreover, swimming would not take much effort. After turning into a cursed mermaid, you might not be able to leave White River City for the rest of your life. Even if you have the curse avoidance amulet, those people will not let a suspect like you leave. Qing Ping continued to persuade him. Not being able to leave is indeed a little unpleasant, but at least I can live. Moreover, there are many beauties in White River City. I like it. Fatty High said that he could accept it reluctantly. You mean that you all passed? You let Fatty leave? Qing Ping kept looking at Yi Kong, Prince of Tianluo and Shuetan Lang. Isn't Fatty High the boss of our team? Something like the cursed blood should be enjoyed by him. Yi Kong generously expressed that he would not compete. The cursed blood is not suitable for me. Prince of Tianluo also respectfully distanced himself. Stay. Shuetan Lang's words were very simple. Us brothers will definitely not compete with Boss High for the cursed blood. Li Chia and Li Ge had only called Fatty High their boss today. What about you? Don't you need to go back and inform Lu Yi? She is currently waiting for you in the Iron Cross Hotel. If you don't go back, a little girl like her might keep waiting. Moreover, when the people behind me are free, they might even take her down as well. Chapter 1024. Prince of Tianluo shook his head. Miss Water Spider, thank you for your kindness, but we don't need it. Yi Kong laughed coldly. That's right, you just want Qing Ping to lose the chance to bring someone back. What help to escape? What a joke. Do you think we're 3-year-old kids? We won't leave. Qing Ping, bring Fatty High away. If you do that, at least 2 people will be safe. Water Spider was stunned. She laughed arrogantly. You've guessed my intentions, but so what? Your hands and feet are weak like a soft-footed crab, unable to resist at all. We'll capture all of you and throw you onto the lifeboat. Who wants your cooperation? Can I force it? Moreover, even if this escape was planned by me, are you willing to give it up? As long as you leave the prison and board the lifeboat, the marshal will think that Fu Ping will never turn back. Whether you can escape safely or not, the result will be the same. On the contrary, if you grasp this opportunity, you might have a 1% chance of escaping alive. Seeing that Yi Kong was about to refute, Qing Ping hurriedly waved her hand to stop him. She's right. Although this isn't what we want to see, it is indeed an opportunity. No matter what the result is, we have to fight. Water Spider is doing this to completely block the possibility of me returning to White River City. In order to make me break with the marshal, she will definitely get us a lifeboat. Water Spider laughed loudly. Smart, as expected of the wisest Fu Ping among the younger generation. That's right. The marshal can't bear to kill you. He sees you as his daughter. As long as you bring someone away, he will definitely forgive you. However, I won't let you turn back. I want to send you away from this boat. Fu Ping, if you don't do this, you have no choice. You need to truly break off relations with White River City and turn against the marshal. Of course, you can turn around and use this opportunity to save their lives. Make your own choice. Are you going to go back and admit your mistake and continue to be the wisest duckweed among the younger generation? Or are you going to sacrifice yourself and use your own life to save these handsome guys? Don't agree with her. She's crazy. Yi Kong shouted anxiously. Such a beautiful girl. It would be a pity if she went crazy. Fatty High muttered while drooling. Shut up. The Water Spider glared at Fatty High. If anyone is dishonest, I'll send him on his way immediately. Most importantly, if any of you don't cooperate, I'll find a few dozen guards and do my best to trample on the duckweeds that sacrifice themselves to protect you. Do you want to return to White River City or leave? I choose to leave. Qing Ping gritted her teeth. He replied word by word. She knew that this was a path of no return. She knew that the Water Spider was deliberately trying to harm her, but she did not have a third choice. Moreover, in order to save Fatty High, Yi Kong and the others' lives as much as possible. Even if there was only a 1 in 10,000 chance, she would still fight for it. The water spider was overjoyed and laughed maniacally. Then he grabbed Qing Ping's arm as fast as lightning and snorted coldly at Fatty Hai and Yi Kong. Follow me. If I find out that any of you dare to play tricks, I will turn Qing Ping into the most miserable woman in the world. If you don't believe me, you can try. Even the good-tempered Tian Luo prince was angered by her threat. Tian Luo prince's expression turned solemn as he made a vow resolutely. If there's a day when we meet again, I will definitely repay you tenfold. The frost in Xue Tanlang's eyes could practically destroy heaven and earth. But this ice cube guy endured it. He did not explode. The water spider completely ignored Tian Luo Prince and Xue Tanlang, sneering disdainfully. You guys should just hope that you can successfully escape. The Smoke Waves Ocean is filled with whirlpools and countless water monsters. If you guys are really that lucky and can escape, then please remember to come to White River City to find me. This sister will definitely treat you guys to a feast of death. With the water spider's cover and arrangements, they successfully escaped from the prison at the bottom of the ship. At the stern of the ship, a small and narrow lifeboat was quietly anchored there. The surroundings were completely silent. The entire escape plan was exceptionally perfect. It could even be said that no one knew about it. Now that things had come to this, there was no room for hesitation. Yi Kong, Fatty Hai, and the others hurriedly picked up the oars and paddled with all their might, trying to get the lifeboat to leave the luxurious cruise ship as soon as possible. The water spider stood high up on the side of the cruise ship, looking down at them. Originally, everyone thought that this poisonous woman would shout loudly that someone had escaped. Who knew that she wouldn't? The water spider coldly watched Qing Ping leave on the boat without saying a word. Compared to a few human prisoners that had escaped, the water spider was more concerned about Fu Ping, this enemy that was greatly admired by the higher-ups. If she shouted for someone to escape, Fu Ping would easily chase after them. If she chased after them, then she would not die. The higher-ups would definitely spare her life. In order to make it impossible for this enemy to ever return, the water spider decided to let her go. Let her stay away from. As long as an hour passed, Fu Ping would be neutralized by the mutated fish man's cursed blood. Then, Fu Ping would turn into a pool of blood. During this period of time, she definitely could not be allowed to stay on the ship. Otherwise, the higher-ups could change their mind at any time and spare her life, saving her. Goodbye. The water spider laughed sinisterly. Without Fu Ping as her enemy, White River City would be her world in the future. The future wife of the city lord of White River City. The future mother of the city lord of White River City. That position belonged to her. The water spider stared at the lifeboat as it slid into the darkness. Only when it was far away and completely out of sight did she feel that her plan had succeeded. She laughed silently, pleased with herself. She stayed for nearly 5 minutes before quietly leaving. After she left, a sneaky black shadow crept to the stern of the ship in the darkness and gazed in the direction that the lifeboat had left. In the sky, the moon peeked through the layers of dark clouds. In just a few seconds, the true appearance of the black shadow could be clearly seen. This black shadow's true appearance was like that of a muscular gorilla. He was the water ape that had previously been Qing Ping's enemy. You want to run when you've already got meat in your mouth? No way. The gorilla-like water ape's eyes were filled with desire. His face looked especially sinister because of his twisted mind. Taking advantage of the fact that there was no one around, the gorilla water ape silently lowered a lifeboat and leaped onto it. With a push of his hand, the lifeboat immediately chased after the lifeboat that Yu Yang was on like an arrow released from a bow. In the darkness of the boat, there seemed to be a sigh. It was faintly discernible. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared without a trace. The lifeboat that Yu Yang and the others were on had advanced for 10 minutes. Qing Ping, whose ancient curse had fully erupted, could no longer hold it in and spat out a mouthful of blood from her cherry lips. Everyone gathered around, but Qing Ping shook her head and waved her hands, indicating that everyone should be quiet and listen to what she had to say first. Qing Ping wiped away the bloodstain at the corner of her lips and took out a small mirror from her bosom. Taking advantage of the moonlight, she carefully combed her long hair and tidied up her appearance as she looked into the mirror. It was as if she wanted to leave the best impression and the best memory for everyone at the last moment. A smile blossomed on her face as she asked happily, "How is it? I'll dress up a little. Is it okay?" Fatty Hai did not hesitate to give her a thumbs up. "Beautiful. You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in White River City." He said that White River City was the most beautiful, not the Heaven Realm. But Qing Ping did not mind. Being able to be the most beautiful in White River City was enough. She beamed with joy as she nodded towards Fatty Hai, thanking him profusely. "Fatty, thank you. Here, other than saying thank you, I also want to apologize to you. All along, I didn't have a good impression of you, but at the last moment, I've completely changed my opinion of you. Although you look like a fatty who deserves a beating, after getting to know you better, I realize that you are a very rare friend." Fatty Hai sweated profusely. "This is the first time I've heard this kind of praise. All right, I'll accept it all." "Yi Kong." Qing Ping turned around and said to Yi Kong, "You're just like a piece of wood. Of course, the Li brothers are even more wooden than you. The three of you don't know how to make girls like you at all. If any girl wants to fall in love with you, that would be a pity. You guys are not good lovers at all. However, even though you guys are not good lovers, you guys are the best husbands. If any girl marries you guys, she would definitely be happy for the rest of her life. When I first saw you, I had this feeling in my heart. I knew that you would definitely be a good husband in the future." "Thank you. Only now do I know that I will be a good husband in the future." Yi Kong laughed loudly. "Don't tell me that you've taken a fancy to that monkey, Yi Kong. What kind of aesthetics do you have? That monkey just crawled out of the Five Fingers Mountain. He's so skinny that his skin can't even wrap around his bones. He's neither good to look at nor good for anything. How could he be as outstanding as me, Master Hai? Why don't you choose me?" Fatty Hai recommended himself. "I'm not choosing you." When Qing Ping said this, Fatty Hai went to the back of the boat to draw circles dejectedly. Qing Ping looked at Yi Kong and suddenly smiled. "Yi Kong, don't be nervous. I'm also not choosing you." Yi Kong immediately felt a sense of relief. One must know that when she said that he would be a good husband just now, his back was drenched in cold sweat. Seeing Yi Kong's expression, Qing Ping laughed. "You'll be a good husband in the future. But I've thought about it. I admire your character, not because I like you. Although you're a reliable person, you're not suitable for me. So, you don't have to be nervous." Yi Kong thought for a while and suddenly squatted beside Fatty Hai to draw circles dejectedly. Sometimes, being human was like this. If a beauty said that she wanted to marry him, he wouldn't care about it. He felt that being single was more precious. But if the beauty said that she didn't really want to marry him and only admired his character, then he would definitely be dejected. How could he be happy if he was looked down upon by others? Fatty Hai warmly welcomed Yi Kong's arrival. They were brothers in hardship. "Prince." Qing Ping looked at Prince of Tianluo. Everyone thought that she had actually taken a fancy to this handsome and gentle prince who would never get angry at a woman. Prince of Tianluo's face was not as bitter as Yi Kong's. He maintained an elegant smile, quietly waiting for Qing Ping's next sentence. Qing Ping looked at him for a long time, then turned to look at Xue Tanlang, who was as cold as ice. She suddenly laughed. "In your group, Fatty will be the best lover, while Yi Kong and the Li clan brothers will be the best husbands. Ice Cube, you are the exact opposite. You will not be a good lover, nor will you be a good husband. You are a cold ice cube. Before you meet a woman who can melt you, I reckon that not many women will be able to stand you. The prince is the exact opposite of you. He will be a very good lover and a very good husband. If you let the women choose, it could be said that Prince will be the best choice among all of you." "You choose him?" Xue Tanlang asked. "Although saying this is a little immodest, it is a fact that I am stronger than you." Prince of Tianluo laughed out loud when he saw Xue Tanlang's depressed look. Prince is indeed better than Ice Block. He is better than Yi Kong and Fatty. He is the ideal candidate. Qing Ping nodded in affirmation. Just when everyone thought that the outcome was decided, she suddenly changed her tone. "But, Prince, I will not choose you. Prince of Tianluo was instantly stunned. Everyone did not understand and looked at Qing Ping simultaneously. Qing Ping laughed and shook her head. I also don't know why. In these few days, I have done many stupid things that I have never done in my life. For example, I betrayed the White River City clan that raised me for a few days. An extremely realistic female spy, a cursed mermaid, actually longed for freedom and longed to become a human. Even though I knew that I would die if I stayed with you, I still foolishly came, as if my brain had become a decoration. Even though I knew that there was no hope in doing this, I was still willing to do it. You ask me why? I can't answer you. Another stupid thing. I know that the best choice is Prince. He will be a good lover and a good husband. He should be the best choice. However, I thought about it for a long time and used countless reasons to persuade myself, but I did not succeed. If I had to choose again without going against my will, I would not choose Prince. Prince, I am sorry. Perhaps everyone thinks that I should choose you, but I cannot. Because the person I truly like is not you. Then who do you like? Prince of Tianluo was not angry. Instead, he asked like an elder brother caring for his younger sister. The person I truly like is a bastard, a pervert, someone that I hate so much that I can't wait to bite him to death. When Qing Ping said this, everyone looked at Yu Yang. Yu Yang, who was dozing off, immediately raised his hands, expressing that he had been shot even though he was lying down. He was innocently liked by someone else. Actually, not only Yu Yang, even Yi Kong and Fatty Hai were confused. According to what they said, the person that Qing Ping hated the most was him. Why would she like him? Is it because he touched her chest? Fatty Hai guessed maliciously. No, Qing Ping was embarrassed. Then is it because he is bad enough? Yi Kong was also a little suspicious. Bad guys were always more likable. No, Qing Ping shook her head. Is it because he is the most handsome? Shui Tanlang could not help but ask. Qing Ping still shook her head, expressing that it had nothing to do with his looks. Then could it be because of Sister Lu Yi? Prince of Tianluo was the most observant. When everyone heard this, they felt that it made sense. Because of Sister Lu Ye's existence, there was a competitive relationship between them. What she could not get was always the best. This way, Qing Ping would pay more attention to Yu Yang. No, it has nothing to do with Sister Lu Yi. I admit that seeing Sister Lu Yi together with him makes me a little jealous, but that is definitely not the real reason why I like him. Qing Ping did not look at Yu Yang, but everyone understood that a girl had someone in her heart. Even if she did not look at him, she would still have him. On the contrary, if she kept looking at him, she would not be able to put him in her heart. Qing Ping smiled shyly. These words, if it was a normal day, I would definitely not dare to say it. Because at the last moment, if I do not say it now, there will be no time. So, I decided to summon up my courage and say it. I like him, even though that big pervert Yu Yang makes me very annoyed. Everything about him is not pleasing to the eye. Sometimes I even want to bite a piece of meat off of his body. Even though he is such a person, I still like him. There is no special reason, and there is no need for a reason. Now, I have already understood that there is no need for a reason to love someone. Liking someone is liking them. No matter how complicated the external conditions are, it will not be able to affect the true love in the depths of one's heart. Please wait a moment. Student Qing Ping, you said so much that you like me, but have you ever thought about how I feel about you? Do you think that just because you like me, I must also like you? If you are not afraid to hear the truth, I want to tell you that I am very sorry, but I do not like you. Yu Yang rejected Qing Ping's confession without any trace of politeness. This is too much. How can you be like this? You really are a bastard. Little sister Qing Ping, don't worry. If he does not want you, you can choose me. Fatty Hai's broad mind and strong arms will always be open for you. Fatty Hai was just like a Casanova. Thank you. Even if Yu Yang does not like me, I will not choose again. I have already decided that it is him. Qing Ping smiled and waved her hands, declining Fatty Hai's good intentions. I want to commit suicide. Fatty Hai's face was full of tears. You're all not bad boys. Being able to have friends like you, I have no more regrets in this life. Qing Ping suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, turning it into a bewitching leaf shape. The energy on her body exploded, and a red light soared to the sky. The ancient curse exploded 100 times. Qing Ping flicked out the bewitching leaf. When it hit Fatty high, it instantly turned into a huge blood-leaf duckweed. Fatty, I hope that you will find the best partner in the future. I have nothing to give you, so I can only use my last bit of energy to send you away from this misty wave sea. This blood-leaf duckweed will carry you, gliding all the way back to White River City. There should not be a war there. You should leave quickly. I wish you a safe journey. With a wave of her hand, Fatty High's body was involuntarily carried by the blood-leaf duckweed, gliding away at an extremely fast speed. The second and third blood-leaf duckweed shot out towards the Lee brothers' bodies. The Lee brothers also involuntarily left. Because of condensing this kind of blood-leaf duckweed, Qing Ping's energy was extremely overdrawn. In addition, the ancient curse was exploding crazily, causing her whole body to tremble in pain. Yi Kong wanted to open his mouth to dissuade her, but Qing Ping smiled bitterly and waved her hand. I don't have much time left. Let me fulfill my last wish for you. You should now understand why I agreed to Water Spider's plan. It's because I have a secret skill that she doesn't know about. If I can't send you away, I won't be able to die in peace. Yi Kong, Prince, and Ice Cube, all of you must live on well. You must be happy in the future. 3 blood-leaf duckweeds appeared at the same time, almost exhausting all the energy in Qing Ping's body. The ancient curse had already devoured more than half of her skin. When Yi Kong, Shuetan Lang, and Prince of Tian Luo were gliding away, a series of explosions occurred in Qing Ping's hands. Originally, she would be greatly injured if she could only use 1 blood leaf, but after continuously using 6 blood leaves, she had overdrawn her energy and caused a backlash. However, even if there wasn't a backlash, the ancient curse in her body had already completely exploded. She wouldn't be able to last more than 10 minutes. Qing Ping swallowed a mouthful of blood. This was the first time she turned around and looked at Yu Yang. She tried her best to show him a smile, but because of the excessive pain, she couldn't easily achieve her wish. Are you going to scold me? I know that you must be very angry. I'm sorry, but I don't have the energy to condense another blood leaf. I like you. Originally, I should have sent you away first. I also thought that way, but in the end, I mysteriously kept you here. Just like how I like you, there's no reason for me to keep you here. I can't explain it either. From the looks of it, you are indeed a very awkward person. You might even be a bit of a masochist. Yu Yang tried to analyze Qing Ping's actions. What's a masochist? Qing Ping had never heard of this term before. It's that you especially like to be abused by others. The more you abuse yourself, the more you enjoy it. If you don't abuse yourself for a day, you will feel uncomfortable all over. Are you like this? If others treat you well, you will feel uncomfortable all over. But if others slap you a few times, you will feel extremely comfortable. Yu Yang pretended to be a reporter, using his drumstick as a microphone and extended it in front of Qing Ping. No way. I'm not that kind of person. Qing Ping was extremely embarrassed when she heard this. However, when she thought about it, she was a little afraid. Could it be that she was really that kind of person? You kept me here. Maybe you subconsciously wanted to keep me here so that you could enjoy yourself at the last moment. Yu Yang could even pretend to be an expert. No, it's definitely not like that. Qing Ping was too ashamed to show her face. She couldn't find a reason and was afraid that she really was like that. Then let's do an experiment. If Yu Yang wore his glasses, he would be a beast. Don't be like this. You're using too much force. Qing Ping felt that this pervert's hand had unscrupulously reached into her bra. His wolfish claws pinched a small cherry. With a light pinch, the kind of unbearable pain seemed to have suppressed the ancient curse's devouring, causing Qing Ping's entire body to tremble. What feeling? Is it comfortable or painful? Yu Yang took out a notebook and prepared to record it. Hui Tai Lang, who was originally sleeping soundly on the boat, saw this opportunity. He fawningly handed over his pen. However, it was kicked into the water by Yu Yang. How dare you? This kind of epic-making important experiment. You damn dogs still haven't disappeared. You're simply courting death. Before Hui Tai Lang left, his tail swept away the drumstick that Yu Yang used as a microphone. Of course, it wasn't good to disturb his master's experiment, but the drumstick had to be eaten. He had already aimed for it for a long time. If it wasn't for his master's important experiment, he wouldn't have been able to steal it. The last third will was gone. Qing Ping's originally pale face from losing a lot of blood suddenly flushed red. Her breathing also quickened. Her heartbeat quickened. The pain from the ancient curses devouring seemed to have lessened greatly. Now, the biggest feeling was the pain from his wolfish claws. That feeling was especially strange. Other than the pain, there was also a kind of indescribable sadness. Faintly, there seemed to be a little comfort. Could it be that she was really a masochist, like he said? How do you feel? Yu Yang meticulously experimented. Ah, so sad. How about that? I don't want to have any regrets before I die. There's no more time I want. Qing Ping really wanted to be like this for the rest of her life. Even if he had to experiment for the rest of her life, she would be willing. However, there was no more time. She only had 10 minutes left in her life. If she didn't do it now, she would have the biggest regret. If she could die in his arms, she would have no regrets. If there were any regrets, then the only regret would be that she didn't have time to accompany this man. She didn't even have time to look at him. Standing on a lifeboat far away, the gorilla-like water ape was burning with anger. This damned whore would rather be abused by others than to look at me. This slut, if I don't kill her, I'm not human. Just as the gorilla was about to explode with all its strength, Hui Tai Lang's tail curled around his calf underwater. It directly dragged him into the water. Would you be able to compensate for disturbing your master's important experiment? Hui Tai Lang, who had eaten a drumstick that was not even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth, opened his bloody mouth and directly swallowed him whole. Ignoring the gorilla, whose combat power had increased by 10 times after falling into the water. Under the water, he even burped with a lot of bubbles. Chapter 1025. Qing Ping woke up. She found herself lying inside a giant clam. The size of the clam was so huge that even if it could accommodate a person, it was at least 20 meters wide. The inner wall was snow white and the edges were purple gold. There were at least 1,000 types of shellfish in the waters around the White River. But Qing Ping had never seen such a huge and beautiful clam before. When she woke up, she was suddenly surprised. Didn't I already explode? How could I still be alive? Moreover, why am I lying inside this beautiful clam that I don't even recognize? I'll calm down. Qing Ping tried hard to recall the past. She got to know that big bad guy and his companions. In the smoke wave sea, the marshal wanted to turn them into blood sacrifices, but she was captured by the marshal because she was good at saving people. She even activated the most terrifying ancient curse in her body. Under the water spider's evil scheme, Yu Yang managed to escape from the tiger's mouth with great difficulty. He beat the water spider at its own game and escaped to the smoky waves sea on a boat. Then he used the blood-leaf duckweed to send Fatty Hai, Yi Kong, and the others away, leaving only the big bad guy to accompany him. She remembered that at that time, he seemed to have said something about masochism and experiments. He even stretched out his wolfy hands and kept doing bad things to her. In the end, she probably didn't have enough time. When her body was about to explode, she prepared to do it with him once to make up for the regret in her heart. However, the ancient curse acted up. Just as she took off her clothes, she couldn't wait to do it with him and collapsed. Before she fainted, she seemed to regret it. She really wanted to do it with him once, but unfortunately, there wasn't enough time. What was going on now? Was she still alive? Qing Ping struggled to sit up, but to no avail. She was surprised to find that her body had already fused with the giant clam. The huge amount of energy it stored, as well as the extremely cool pearl liquid, was currently wrapping around his entire body, continuously fusing with it, continuously cultivating his broken body. The power of the ancient curse was still there, but it had already moved to the outside of the giant clam and was no longer acting up in her body. Who was it that used such a strange method to save her life? Could be that big bad guy. He still had this kind of ability? It didn't seem possible. Like the ancient curse, unless it was a god, it was impossible to resist such a terrifying curse. Her weak body had already exploded. How could it be reversed? This was simply a miracle that only gods could achieve. You're awake? You've recovered quite well. A female ocean empress wearing a crown on her head, wearing an emperor's robe and holding a holy staff in her hand, suddenly appeared and looked down at Qing Ping. Ah, you are. When Qing Ping saw her, she was immediately shocked. First, Qing Ping didn't know this sea empress at all. Second, from the other's tone, it seemed that she had saved her. Third, because this sea empress was approaching, Qing Ping was shocked to discover that her life was intimately connected with the others, as if she was a part of the other's body. Even though their consciousnesses weren't connected, their souls were definitely connected. What was going on? Had he become the Ocean Queen's slave? However, it was impossible for slaves to communicate with each other's souls. This kind of spiritual connection was even more mysterious than the connection of life energy between contracted beasts. Perhaps only the legendary guardian beast and its master could achieve this kind of effect. When she thought up to here, Qing Ping was shocked. He had become this sea empress guardian beast? Could it be that after he died, he was reincarnated like the legendary reincarnation of his soul? But he was clearly not a baby now. His original body still existed, but it was broken by the ancient curse. He was currently being repaired and fused with the pearl-like spiritual liquid. I am Aquamarine, the empress of all the sea clan in Tong Tian Tower. As long as there is water, it is under my jurisdiction. I don't know why you suddenly flew into my clam queen's body and fused with it. Who are you? The Ocean Empress asked in a dignified manner. Her words set off a storm in Qing Ping's heart. This was actually Tong Tian Tower. She had actually come to Tong Tian Tower from White River City in Western Heaven Realm. Could it be that the power of the ancient curse had forced her to return to Tong Tian Tower? Your Majesty, I'm called Qing Ping. I don't know why I came to your palace all of a sudden, and I don't understand why I fused with your clam queen either. This is simply a miracle. Before Qing Ping could finish her sentence, tears were already gushing out of her eyes. She now thought of him, the him who was willing to let her do bad things for the rest of his life. She, who had inexplicably returned to Tong Tian Tower and fused with the Ocean Empress Clam Queen, was afraid that she would never have the chance to meet him again. The space between Tong Tian Tower and Heaven Realm had been sealed for thousands of years. No one had ever successfully passed through. Whether it was the traders of Tong Tian Tower or the Lost Clan, it was impossible for them to return home. That big bad guy stayed in the smoke waves sea outside White River City. But she had returned to Tong Tian Tower. What should she do? If it was in the past, being able to return home would naturally be a good thing to be happy about. The Marshal had said more than once that if she returned to Tong Tian Tower with the strength of White River City, she would definitely be able to rule the entire Tong Tian Tower. She might even be able to open the legendary god's ruins. Tong Tian Tower. She had returned, but she was not happy at all. Instead, she felt endless sorrow. Without a lover, what was the point of living? Just like that, she would be separated from him forever. Even if she was lucky enough to be resurrected from the ancient curse, it was destined to be a tragedy. Heavens, this arrangement was too despairing. Since you resurrected me, why did you put me in Tong Tian Tower? Even if it was in any corner of Heaven Realm. At least that way, she could still go back to find him and reunite with him one day. Why are you crying? The Ocean Empress seemed to be puzzled by Qing Ping's crying after waking up. She frowned and asked, I lost something. The more Qing Ping thought about it, the sadder she became. What did you lose? The Ocean Empress asked again. I lost a person. Qing Ping cried loudly. Ha. Then tell me, how did you lose a person? The Ocean Empress laughed when she heard Qing Ping's words. After the other party asked, the pain in Qing Ping's heart erupted like a flood bursting a dam. She could not help but wail loudly. After crying for an unknown amount of time, Qing Ping realized that the Ocean Empress was looking at her, patiently waiting for her answer. Perhaps it was because their souls were connected, or perhaps it was because her heart was too uncomfortable and she wanted to find someone to talk to. Perhaps it was because she had a glimmer of hope that Tong Tian Tower had other passages that connected to Heaven Realm. In short, Qing Ping could not help but talk about her own matters in front of the Ocean Empress, who was still a stranger. With sobs, Qing Ping intermittently told everything that had happened to her recently to the Ocean Empress Aquamarine in front of her. The Ocean Empress pondered for a long time and opened her mouth several times to speak. But she hesitated. Qing Ping held on to her last glimmer of hope and asked, "Your Majesty, is there a space passage in Tong Tian Tower that can connect directly to Heaven Realm? It was not easy for me to find someone that I like. I can't lose him. I beg you, tell me a piece of good news." The Ocean Empress firmly refused, not to mention that the Heaven Realm gate is already closed and the space passage void is broken. It is impossible to pass through. Even if it is possible, I will not let you leave. Why? Don't you understand your identity now? You have fused with my Clam Queen and will be my guardian beast in the future. Tell me, do you think it is possible for me to let you leave? Qing Ping was stunned. Although she had guessed this possibility before, after hearing the truth, she still could not help but feel a burst of despair. As expected, her resurrection was not without a price. The ancient curse did not kill her, and even brought her back to her hometown, Tong Tian Tower. However, it also fused her with someone else's guardian beast. From then on, she completely lost her freedom. The most terrifying thing was that she, who had become a guardian beast, could not commit suicide even if she wanted to. Why did it become like this? The more Qing Ping thought about it, the sadder she became. Her face was full of tears, and in the end, she could not help but cry out in despair. Perhaps this was the ultimate punishment of the ancient curse. It was not as simple as killing her, but also making her suffer forever. She would spend the rest of her life in despair and longing. Without that big bad guy, she could not even live for a day. What should she do in the future? After crying for a while, Qing Ping suddenly raised her head and stopped crying. She looked firmly at her new master, the Ocean Empress. "Your Majesty, please grant me freedom. You are also a woman. You should understand what love means to a woman. I cannot live without him. I beg you, grant me freedom and let me return to Heaven Realm. I swear here that as long as I find him, I will definitely return to Tong Tian Tower with him. In the future, I will listen to your orders without any objections. I beg you, let me go. If I do not have him, I cannot even live for a day." The Ocean Empress shook her head slowly. "Even if I give you freedom, can you leave? With your current body, you cannot leave at all. I estimate that it will take at least a year before you can completely fuse with the clam and recover your body in the meteor shower pearl liquid. Whether it is a year or 10 years, as long as I can move, I will go find him." Qing Ping could not move now, but she hoped that the Ocean Empress would grant her freedom. Do you know that the passage to Heaven Realm has already become a broken void? Anyone who steps in will be crushed into powder by the time vortex. The Ocean Empress still shook her head. "Even if my bones are smashed to pieces, I still want to go." Qing Ping resolutely and decisively expressed her determination. "Haha, you are really stubborn." The Ocean Empress laughed out loud. All right, if your body is completely recovered, I will consider whether to grant you freedom." Qing Ping was overjoyed and hurriedly expressed her gratitude. "Your Majesty, you are the kindest and most beautiful empress in the world. I wish you the best of luck in finding the true love of your life in the future and living happily ever after with your lover." "Thank you, really. I do not know if I will succeed, but your tolerance has already made me grateful for life." The Ocean Empress waved her hand and magnanimously expressed that she already had a lover and did not need to look for him anymore. "Although that fellow is usually very busy and runs outside every day and rarely stays at home to accompany me, he will occasionally coax me. It is still SOSO. The only thing I was worried about was whether he would be seduced by some beautiful demonists on the way. It's really hard to find a good man. That guy's looks are just SOSO, so it's easy for others to target him. Besides, he's a natural pervert, and his self-control is very poor. As long as someone tries to seduce him, he'll take the bait. I really love and hate that bad guy. My feelings are especially complicated. Hearing such a happy ocean empress also complaining, Qing Ping also sympathized with her. That's right. There was indeed a lot of competition for a good man. Everyone hoped to find a good man who would love them for the rest of their lives. However, no one was blind. A good man was as rare as a meteor streaking across a pitch-black night, so conspicuous. Once he appears, it is almost impossible not to be targeted. The bad guy she found, even if he wears a mask or sunglasses all day to hide his true appearance, there is still Sister Lu Yi to compete for him. If she did not pluck up the courage to confess to him before she died, he may not accept her for the rest of his life. Strictly speaking, she seems to be considered as a female seductress who came out to steal him, especially Sister Lu Yi. If she knew the truth, she might be very angry. If I can return to Heaven Realm, I must apologize to her. At most, I will let that big pervert take advantage of me and let Sister Lu Ye's disciple change to a new identity and serve him together. Thinking of this, Qing Ping felt a burst of shame in her heart. However, she also thought of a way and decided to give the Ocean Empress a small suggestion. Your Majesty, if you want him to stay with you more, why not give him a prince? As long as he is a father, no matter how active a prodigal son is, he will still love home. Good idea. The Ocean Empress expressed that this idea was good. Next time when he comes back, I will think of a way to implement it, but, Your Majesty, what are you still worried about? Qing Ping secretly felt strange. If you want to have a child, do you still need to hesitate? Actually, it's like this. The big bad guy that I like is not just me. Although I'm also a wife, my ranking is relatively low. I guess that when it comes to giving birth to a child, it should be the main wife or a few sisters who are ranked at the top. If I want to give birth, of course I can, but this seems to be unfair to the sisters who are ranked at the top. If the sisters who are ranked at the top are not good to me, then it's fine. But they're very good to me, so I am embarrassed to overstep. The Ocean Empress explained a little. Qing Ping understood why this Ocean Empress said that her lover was always not at home. It turned out that he liked more than her. Such a man was really a playboy. She did not know how this Ocean Empress took a fancy to such a playboy. Qing Ping was silent for a long time. She thought that she was not like that. She knew that Sister Lu Yi and he were a couple, but she still rushed out. She did not hesitate to abandon her people and risk her life to be with him. Sometimes, women were really fools. With this in mind, Qing Ping persuaded the Ocean Empress again. In that case, you sisters discuss it. Whoever is willing, then you can give birth together. The Ocean Empress smiled and shook her head, then waved her hand. Don't worry, because he is different from others. The stronger he is, the stronger the baby we give birth to will be, and the higher the potential. When he cultivates to the Divine Supreme, I will give birth to a child for him. When Qing Ping heard this, she turned pale with fright. Your husband is about to cultivate to the Divine Supreme. Isn't there no strong people in Tong Tian Tower? Someone in the distance snorted, seemingly very dissatisfied with these words. The Ocean Empress hurriedly waved goodbye to Qing Ping. That big bad guy is back. You should rest well. Don't talk nonsense. That big bad guy's temper is very bad. When he gets angry, it is possible that he will abuse people. When Qing Ping heard the Ocean Empress's words, for some reason, her mind surfaced the scene of him reaching into her bra to do something naughty. The feeling was really, if only that big bad guy was here. If he was by her side, even if she let him bully her for a lifetime, she would be willing. Chapter 10:26. Smoky Wave Sea. The luxurious cruise ship was still there, but the tourists on it had already been slaughtered. Those that belonged to humans had already become blood sacrifices. Those that weren't humans were all buried in the stomachs of the fishes. Large amounts of blood and corpses attracted hundreds of cleaver-toothed sharks that were also able to establish themselves as the overlords of freshwater. God knows how these cleaver-toothed sharks appeared in the waters of White River. Maybe someone deliberately released them. Maybe they originally lived in the inner sea before the floating continent sank. The strongest cleaver-toothed shark that had the strength of heaven rank level 3 was definitely in existence, like the overlord of the water. As long as it was in the water, any target that was targeted by them would be marked with the mark of death. Compared to other sharks or monsters in the water, cleaver-toothed sharks like to move in groups. Once they moved, they would gather at least 10 attack teams and take turns to attack the enemy, knowing how to cooperate and surround them. Their attack efficiency was definitely one of the best in the waters of White River. The most cunning thing was that these cleaver-toothed sharks also knew how to cooperate with the hybrid fishmen. If the hybrid fishmen could lure a large amount of delicious food, the cleaver-toothed shark would even take the initiative to become the hybrid fishman's mount in the water, providing the strongest cooperation in a short period of time. For example now, the lobster man rode on the cleaver-toothed shark that he named Broken Tooth and chased after Fatty High complacently. Broken Tooth was an extremely ferocious cleaver-toothed shark that had the strength of heaven rank level 3. Although it wasn't the Shark King, in its group, its strength could be ranked in the top 10. When it cooperated with the hybrid fishmen to surround and kill a heaven rank level 5 steel-armed gold ape, it attacked with all its might and angered an enemy that was far stronger than itself. That steel-armed gold ape's fist broke all its teeth, hence the name Broken Tooth. Because of Broken Tooth and his companion's frantic restraint, the hybrid fishmen successfully attacked. After paying a small sacrifice, they finally took down this steel-armed gold ape whose skin was even harder than steel. During the battle, the lobsterman Jiao Su, who saved Broken Tooth's life, also obtained its recognition and became Broken Tooth's water knight as he wished. Once they entered the water, the hybrid fishmen would immediately increase their fighting strength by 10 times. Furthermore, with the split-toothed shark as their mount, the hybrid fishmen dared to say that in the water, no one would be a match for them. At the very least, it was impossible for an opponent of the same level to win. The lobsterman Jiao Su felt that it would be a piece of cake to chase Fatty High, a newbie who didn't even look like a heaven ranker and was also a human who was as fat as a pig. If it wasn't for the marshal's order to kill the escaping target as soon as possible, the lobsterman Jiao Whiskers really wanted to play with the enemy for a while longer. Such a weak opponent was hard to come by even in a decade. Stepping on bloodleaf duckweed, lobsterman Jiao Su had already seen Fu Ping's secret blood technique. If he didn't have the split-toothed shark as his mount, it would probably be a little troublesome. It would be a little difficult for him to catch up to it. However, with the split-toothed shark as his mount, with its speed, he would be able to play it to death like a cat chasing a mouse. Lobsterman Jiao Su knew that he had enough fun and had to go back. After all, he wasn't the only one who had chased after them. He still had to chase after the Ice Cube guy's stinky octopus, chase after the prince's yellow honey stinger, chase after the skinny guy's big-mouth crocodile swallowing cow. Fu Ping thought that if she risked her life to use her secret blood technique, she would be able to let those humans escape. What a joke. Everything was under the marshal's control. However, the marshal had always given Fu Ping a chance to return. Unfortunately, she still gave up in the end. The happiest person would probably be the water spider, and the saddest person would undoubtedly be the 1,000-year-old second, the water ape. However, these things had nothing to do with him. He didn't want to be the city master, and he didn't want to have any ideas about the future city master's wife. In any case, he wouldn't participate in the matters of the higher-ups. This kind of life was the safest. For example, water spider and water ape. One released Fu Ping on his own, while the other chased after him on his own. When they returned, it would be equivalent to his beloved daughter's disciple defecting. The marshal, who was already in a bad mood, would definitely not forgive them. Hey, Fatty, you've already run for so long. Do you still want to escape? Aren't you tired? Lobsterman Jiao Su looked at this damned fatty who had fallen from the blood leaf duckweed into the water. He was obviously in despair, and his physical strength had long reached its limit. Yet, he was still able to swim away at a tortoise's speed because of his will to live. Huff, huff, damn you. It's easy for you to say that. If it were you, wouldn't you escape? Fatty High was tired and angry, rolling his eyes. You're going to die in the end anyway, so why don't you be more straightforward? At most, when I kill you, I'll cut you a little faster so that you won't feel any pain. Of course, if you don't obediently hand over all your treasures, I won't be so easy to talk to. If you dare to resist, or dare to leave even a little bit of stuff behind, I promise to cut you into thin sashimi, piece by piece. Fatty, think about it carefully. As a human being, you can't bring life with you, and you can't bring death with you. Why do you have to fight with pain just for some worldly possessions? According to the information that Fu Ping had gathered, the lobsterman knew that the one who controlled the wealth and the team was this damned Fatty. Otherwise, he would have killed this fat man who swam slower than a hunter with one slash long ago. I will wait for a miracle to happen. Fatty High expressed that he would never give up on his last hope. Unless your swimming style can disgust me to death, there won't be any miracle. Lobsterman Jiao Su laughed heartily. Miracle? Did you think that just because you had a bit more meat on your body, fate would favor you? Wrong. A fatso like you is destined to be a tragedy in life, an abandoned child played by fate. This was because Elder Nan Gong had said that in order to protect Yu Yang's dignity as the new prison emperor of Tongtian Tower, this kind of domineering curse would only be circulated within the team and not spread outside, let alone Yi Kong and the others. Even Fatty High wouldn't easily say it unless he was too pleased with himself or was extremely angry. Fatty, look at your stupid face. What's the use of scolding people? Can your mouth kill people? This sentence wasn't said by the lobsterman, but it was what the lobsterman Jiao Su wanted to say. The lobsterman was startled. Why would someone appear at this time? Furthermore, their thoughts were strangely similar to his. Could it be that this person was his long-lost brother? Thoughts flashing in his mind, the lobsterman Jiao Su turned around and saw 5 people standing behind him. One was as cold as ice. One had a polite smile on his face. One was reprimanding the fatty with a straight face, and the other 2 were silent but had a tacit understanding to attack. Weren't these people the targets that smelly octopus Pangaea, yellow water honey sting, and big-mouth crocodile Tunyo were chasing? Why did they all come to his side? Where were Pangaea, honey sting, Tunyo, and the others? Could it be that they were all lazy and went back to White River City to pay their respect to their ancestors who were about to be revived? What do they mean by throwing all of these fellows to him to take care of? The lobsterman was extremely frustrated. If he went back, he would definitely complain about them in front of the marshal. Something was thrown over. The broken tooth that the lobsterman Jiao Su was sitting on did not wait for him to see it clearly and swallowed it into his stomach. The lobsterman was startled. The thing that was thrown over seemed to be a human head. Although the human head had been swallowed by broken tooth, there was still a faint smell of blood in the water. Papa! From Yi Kong's hands, another 2 black shadows were thrown out. The lobsterman Jiao Su rode on broken tooth and retreated a certain distance in fear. Only when the last black shadow was thrown out by the Ice Cube Man did he see clearly that the already frozen spherical black shadow was a human head that had died with its eyes wide open. That was the octopus man Pangaea, who was ranked in the top 3 of the younger generation. He never thought that such a powerful person like him would die. Furthermore, he had died with a sinister appearance and died with his eyes wide open. When he took a closer look at the other black shadows, he realized that they were all human heads. Water wasps, honey sting, big mouth, swallowing cow. If he added the human head that broken tooth had swallowed, then not a single one of them would be spared and they would all die tragically in front of him. Even if the lobsterman Jiao Su was an idiot, he knew that something was wrong. Escape. He immediately urged Broken Tooth to escape with all his might. In the sky, a figure that was so beautiful that it was almost bewitching appeared. She retracted her wings under the restriction of flying and glided down like an arrow, landing on the lobsterman Jiao Su's head. The lobsterman Jiao Su did not even have time to react before he felt his body being hit by the other party's slap. He froze until he was even stiffer than a dead snake as he flew out from Broken Tooth's back. The fatty that had been swimming slower and uglier than a pig suddenly soared into the sky. The sky was filled with his meteor-like fists. Hippopotamus meteor fist. This was the last sentence that lobsterman Jiao Su heard before he died. From then on, he felt that his body had been shattered by the terrifying meteor shower. In White River City, Lu Yi had just walked out of the Iron and Steel Guild. She had just completed a business deal and successfully exchanged 10 multicolored gems for 10 tons of electric flower ore. She had a smile on her lips and was in an especially good mood. Of course, she was in a good mood not only because she had completed the business deal, but also because her cultivation had advanced. She did not know if it was because she was alone with him that her comprehension ability was especially good. She thought that she would need a long time to comprehend the realm, but in just a few days, she had already achieved some results. Lu Yi was preparing to board the train at the platform and return to the Iron Cross Hotel to continue cultivating while waiting for him to come back. However, she realized that there was someone in front of her. She stopped herself. The person standing in front of Lu Yi was a woman dressed in tight black clothes. Her eyes flashed with pride and cruelty. This was a poison woman. Lu Yi evaluated the other party in her heart. I don't think I know you. Even though the other party was filled with murderous intent, Lu Yi still had a smile on her face. Dead people don't need to know too much. That woman in black proudly snorted. Makes sense. Lu Yi nodded and maintained her good mood. Can we go out of the city? If we fight in this city, I'm afraid we'll hurt the innocent. Her words almost made Water Spider, who was standing opposite her, laugh to death. Worried about hurting the innocent if they fought in the city? What do you think this is? Is this your place? This is my place. Even if this sentence has to be said, it should be said by me. Ha 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 ha. All right, I'll fulfill your dying wish and go out of the city. Water Spider felt that he had never met such an idiotic woman in his life. Strangely, Lu Yi, who was still in a good mood, still had a sweet face. She actually thought so too. Chapter 10:27. White River City. There was a body of water outside the northern pier of the city. All the ships that could not be used were piled up there, from large cruise ships to fishing boats to rotten wooden rafts. Thousands of abandoned ships formed a ruined shipwreck area. Because of the accumulation of years, this place was rarely visited by people, but it had become a paradise for all kinds of fish. Occasionally, there would be old people from White River City who would come here to fish, often returning with a bountiful harvest. Young people, however, did not like the shipwreck area. The rusty and decaying shipwrecks always exuded a strange, unpleasant smell. Perhaps the old people would not care about this, but young people could not stand this lethargic and decaying place. Today, a pair of young women unexpectedly came to the shipwreck area. One wore clothes whiter than snow. The other wore clothes as black as ink. Their appearance broke through the lethargic water surface, bringing a rare breath of fresh air to the shipwreck area filled with the smell of decay. I really couldn't tell that the grave you chose is not bad. Directly buried at sea, simple and convenient, really good. The woman in black was naturally the Water Spider, recognized by the younger generation of White River City as the most vicious and poisonous. And the one in white was her hunting target, Lu Yi. For a harmless human girl like Lu Yi, the Water Spider originally had no reason to kill her, no matter how one looked at it. Killing this Lu Yi was not an action that benefited oneself. But the Water Spider did not need a reason to kill Lu Yi, did it? If she wanted to kill, she did not need any reason at all. If there was, then the only reason might be that the Water Spider could not bear to see anyone prettier than her. I'm sure for the last time. If I can avoid fighting, I am not willing to fight to the death. No matter who wins or loses, it is destined that one person will fall here. Lu Yi's small face still maintained a calm expression. She calmly gazed at the powerful Water Spider. When facing the enemy, her eyes were brave and fearless, a change from her usual self. However, since you insist on fighting, then I will not retreat. If you want to fight, then I will fight. Your tone is quite big, but you are as weak as a bug. What qualifications do you have to fight me? What a joke. The water spider sneered. Her figure soared into the sky. After reaching a height of several hundred meters, she exploded with a fierce aura. Then, like a meteorite, it smashed everything within a dozen meters of its body into powder. Lu Yi narrowly avoided it. The shockwave from the falling body of the water spider almost destroyed the entire area of the abandoned ship. Monstrous waves roared and splashed, like a storm passing through, engulfing the entire area. The huge sunken ship revealed its decaying hull from the bottom of the water. Countless fragments were chaotically twisted in the air, forming an extremely strange waterspout. The power of the waterspout was so great that Lu Yi, who had jumped back to avoid the shockwave, could not help but be pulled back. The water spider's body, which had fallen to the surface of the water, suddenly turned around and faced the sky. Her speed, it was even faster than lightning. The two different terrifying forces created two connected but completely different shock waves in the space above the water surface. Although it didn't shatter the space, it had successfully wrapped the waterspout and the space inside it, whether it was the debris of the sunken ship, the water splashes, or the air, into a huge space. Its shape was just like a bubble in the water. This bubble, which was cut by the waterspout, was completely under the control of the water spider's will. This was her unique secret skill, the reverse bubble. In this bubble, once an enemy was captured, even a powerful heaven stage would find it hard to break free. It was very likely that the battle with the water spider would end here, and their lives would fall into her hands. Defeat without a fight. As soon as Lu Yi entered the reverse bubble, she discovered a serious problem. Not only could she not use her movement technique, even her breathing was gradually being controlled by the opponent. In this way, how could she not be defeated in such a battle? She had almost no time to think. The water spider's second wave of killing moves, followed by another. The reverse bubble was already enough to defeat the weak Lu Yi, but the water spider felt that if she did this, it would not be strong enough. She was a ruthless and poisonous water spider. How could she let the enemy die so easily? When the water spider's figure passed through the bubbles beautifully, Lu Yi discovered that there were more than 10 completely transparent spider webs on her body at some point in time. These spider webs grew with the wind. They interweaved and transformed, forming an extremely tough net. Lu Yi's entire body was trapped in a net, and she was pulled onto the wreckage of a steel sunken ship. If one fell into the water spider's first killing secret skill, the reverse bubble, there was a chance of escaping. But if one fell into the water spider's second killing secret skill, the dragon binding net, then one would definitely die. The dragon binding net, as the name suggested, was a super strong net that even a giant dragon could not break free from. Lu Yi did not know if the water spider's net could bind a dragon, but she could sense the terror of this net. Danger! Ha 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 ha! In the eyes of the water spider, Lu Yi was now equivalent to a dead person. She was just left with a few more breaths so that she could kill and vent her anger. At this moment, on the other side of White River City, old Iron Anchor stood at the door of the Iron Thorn's hut. His expression did not change, but in the depths of his eyes, he could not help but reveal a trace of regret. This was the place where his disciple, Fu Ping, had originally lived. This disciple of his had been smart since young. No matter what she learned, she would learn it easily. She was also very obedient, and teaching her was far more worrisome than teaching others. Every time, Fu Ping had already finished learning the supplementary lessons, but others had just started. If not for the fact that Fu Ping did not have any faction supporting her, with her talent and intelligence, it would not have been impossible for her to become the Lord of White River City as a woman. It was a pity that such an outstanding person like her had embarked on the path of betrayal. Originally, the descendants of White River City had never encountered such a complete betrayal. Whether it was in the Tong Tian Tower or the Heaven Realm of today, the Curse Clan would never allow outsiders to accept them, nor would they ever live together with outsiders. Thus, no matter how stupid or idiotic a person was, they would not betray their clan and flee. But it was this incredibly smart Fu Ping who had done something that even a fool would not do. Goodbye, my daughter. After Old Anchor said this in his heart, the pain in his eyes completely disappeared, replaced by perseverance and decisiveness. With a wave of his hand, he ordered, "Men, raze the traitor Fu Ping's hut to the ground. Confiscate all her belongings and mark all her personal belongings as a traitor. Send them to the various guilds and schools in the city to be spurned. At the same time, it will serve as a negative example to warn our clansmen. Spread the word in the city. We are nailing this traitor to the pillar of shame in history. Also, write her name into the cursed blood tower in our city, so that she will forever be the target of our curse. Her soul will never rest in peace, never to be reincarnated. I want people to see that this is what happens to traitors." "Yes, sir," several guards standing behind Old Anchor responded respectfully. The guards then began to clean up the mess. Old Anchor's eyes flashed with a sigh, but quickly disappeared. Although he was dressed in the attire of a ship's mate, the aura he exuded was that of a powerful martial. The martial artists of White River City who knew him bowed to him in unison. As for the merchants and mercenaries who had lived in the city for many years, they stared at him in astonishment. They could no longer recognize that this tall, dignified man with the aura of a lion was the Old Anchor who drank himself into a drunken stupor every day at the Eastgate Pier. Now, who would dare to underestimate him in the slightest? A breeze seemed to blow across the street. Old Anchor, who had been striding forward, immediately stopped in his tracks. He looked thoughtfully towards the north of the city, his brows half furrowed. A group of guards who had been following him from a distance hurried forward. According to their understanding, the marshal must have stopped because of an order. Old Anchor slowly raised his hand and waved it downwards. "All of you, hurry to the abandoned ship area at the northern pier. If you see the water spider, tell her to return to base immediately. Don't waste even a second. If she dares to disobey, capture her on the spot. If she resists, behead her." Such a stern tone sent a chill down the captain's spine. Although the marshal had always been dignified, he had never been like this. Could it be that Water Spider was like Fu Ping and had the intention to defect? The guards received the order and immediately displayed their fastest movement techniques, tacitly setting off towards the abandoned ship area in the north of the city. The fastest of them all was the captain of the guards. Although he was only a small captain, he possessed considerable strength. He was the kind of person who was quiet, but capable of frightening others at any moment. Having given the order, Old Anchor's face darkened as he continued forward. Suddenly, like an old lion that had discovered its enemy, he charged forward violently and crazily. In an instant, he had crossed 2 streets and arrived in front of a train platform. This was the platform where Fu Ping had first come into contact with that pretty boy when she boarded the train. If it hadn't been for that pretty boy, Fu Ping wouldn't have embarked on the path of betrayal. If he could regret and choose again, he would never have let Fu Ping come into contact with that pretty boy. Who could have imagined that in just a few days, that pretty boy would lead Fu Ping astray? If it hadn't been for that pretty boy, Fu Ping definitely wouldn't have betrayed the clan. When Old Anchor rushed to the platform, he wasn't just angry that he had lost a daughter, but also because he had discovered someone who could never appear again. It was that pretty boy who had clearly been killed in the Misty Wave Sea. How could that pretty boy still be alive? Old Anchor raised his eyes to look at the light rail leaving the platform. Through an open window, he saw that pretty boy smiling and waving at him. At that moment, Old Anchor felt the rage of wanting to destroy the entire train. At the same time, he felt a chill in his heart. An enemy who couldn't possibly be alive had not only returned to White River City alive, but had done so without anyone knowing. What did this mean? If the kid hadn't released his aura just now and deliberately exposed himself for him to discover, he would still be in the dark. Such an enemy was too frightening. Could that pretty boy really be as simple as an ordinary human pretty boy? In his rage, Old Anchor clearly sensed that there seemed to be a huge net that had been laid out for who knew how long, and it was constantly drawing in, firmly enveloping White River City. Danger! This time, they definitely wouldn't just lose a duckweed. Perhaps all of White River City would face an unprecedented disaster. The pretty boy, his friends, and the pair of mysterious sisters. Everything that had puzzled Lin Ming before now became clear. These people probably didn't come for the electric flower or at all, but rather for White River City. Was Skysplit Tower's martial artist finally going to hunt down the Curse clan? Old Anchor couldn't care less about chasing after the target who was leaving on the train, nor could he immediately head to the Iron Guild to spread the nightmarish news. He didn't do that. Instead, he rushed back to his hut at the fastest speed he could muster in his life, opened the mechanism to enter the secret passage, and then rushed back to the headquarters. Compared to the lives of hundreds of thousands of his people, Old Anchor cared more about the underwater headquarters and the elites who were reviving their ancestors. As long as the elites could be saved, there was still hope for the Curse clan. On the other hand, even if they escaped with hundreds of thousands of their people, the Tower of Babel's martial artists would come after them again. No matter what, the elites in the headquarters and the ancestors who were being revived with fresh blood could not be lost. When Old Anchor reached the Great Iron Fortress as fast as he could, he passed through the exit and arrived at the steel door of the hall where the ancestors were being revived. He was shocked to find that the pretty boy who had just left on the train and had been despised by him all this time was standing there with a smile on his face, waiting for him quietly. The pretty boy was even waving at him like a good friend he hadn't seen in years. What? Old Anchor was shocked. He found that his heart was as firm as a mountain. He found that his heart, which was as firm as a mountain, was trembling uncontrollably. Chapter 1028. White River City, Northern Shipwreck Area. On the deck of a ship that had been sucked out of the seabed by the countercharge bubble, the wreckage was exposed high above the water surface. A spider web that was powerful enough to bind a dragon was firmly stuck to a woman in white. She was the prey that Water Spider had successfully captured after using 2 secret skills. She was the clean girl Lu Yi from the soaring dragon continent of Tong Tian Tower. The enemy was powerless to struggle like a flying insect on a spider's web. Seeing such a scene, Water Spider laughed wildly, pleased with herself. Little worm, ha ha, I think, now you should understand the gap between you and me, right? Just based on you, no matter how much courage you have, it is impossible for you to defeat me. To take down a little worm like you, I only need 1 finger. Ha ha, even if it's just 1 finger, it's enough to crush your small body into pieces. The Water Spider gracefully and arrogantly floated down in front of Lu Yi. She looked down at Lu Yi, who was tightly bound by the spider's web. She slowly extended her index finger, which had a purplish-black fingernail, and contemptuously lifted Lu Yi's chin. To me, you are indeed a strong opponent, Lu Yi calmly admitted, but insisted on her own opinion. However, there's one thing you are wrong about. As long as you have the courage to face death with a firm belief, coupled with wisdom that shines like dawn, victory will come like a miracle. Miracle? Water Spider was startled at first, then burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha. She laughed so hard that she rocked back and forth. She couldn't stop laughing. In the end, she laughed so hard that tears almost came out. Water Spider finally couldn't hold back her laughter. She forced herself to be serious and nodded at Lu Yi. Now, show me your so-called miracle. I'm really looking forward to it. Ah, sorry, I really couldn't hold back my laughter. You don't know, I have never heard such a ridiculous joke in my life. Miracle? There are no miracles in this world, only strength. There are miracles in this world, but it will not happen to you. Lu Yi still had a look of determination. Is that so? Ha ha, good. Hurry up and let the miracle happen. I really want to see how the miracle will happen. Water Spider made a go-ahead gesture, then pretended to be kind and asked, Miss Lu Yi, who can make miracles happen? Do you need me to release you from the web? Without waiting for Lu Yi to speak, she laughed wildly again. Finally, Her index finger with purplish-black fingernails seemed to have inadvertently scratched Lu Ye's finger. After she was done, the water spider pretended to be very regretful and repeatedly apologized. "I'm really sorry. I was too eager to see how a miracle would happen and didn't notice that I made a small cut on the back of your hand. Don't worry, this small wound isn't big. As long as you can withstand the spider poison that can kill 100 giant mammoths, you should be able to recover quickly. Come on, don't worry about your wounds or the spider venom. Let the miracle happen first. All right, as long as you can withstand the spider venom that will melt your internal organs into water within 5 minutes, then I can reluctantly consider it as a miracle. Haha, I'm still looking forward to it." The water spider looked at the willow leaf like a female jackal looking at a newborn lamb. His eyes were filled with contempt and mockery. It was also filled with killing intent. After a few seconds, as if she couldn't wait to enjoy the spoils of war, she opened her mouth to mock Lu Yi again. "How about it? Your so-called miracle. Can it come? Or do you want to warm up first? Well, if you are willing to beg me loudly, then I can consider letting you out of the spider web and fully prepare for the arrival of some miracle." "No need." Lu Yi lightly shook her head, although he always taught me that when facing bad people, there is no need to give them a chance, and that it is best to kill them at the first moment, to cut the weeds and remove the roots to avoid future troubles. My heart is still too soft. But my heart is still too soft. I always like to give people a chance, especially when I'm also a woman. The water spider was flabbergasted and dug her ears in surprise. "I didn't hear wrong, did I? You're giving me a chance?" Lu Ye's face straightened, and she seriously snorted. "I've already given you a chance. You are an irredeemable enemy. I will no longer be lenient." These words made the water spider extremely unhappy. Chance? Leniency? Who was giving who a chance? Who was giving who leniency? Lu Yi hasn't woken up yet, right? For a moment, the water spider was furious. The 5 fingers of her left hand formed into a claw, and with strong poison, she clawed at Lu Ye's delicate and sweet little face. For the same sex, especially beautiful enemies of the same sex, the water spider usually wouldn't let the other party die too easily. She would torture them to her heart's content, until the other party couldn't bear the torture and opened her mouth to beg for mercy. Only then would she kill the other party in one fell swoop in the blissful pleasure of killing. Of course, when she was in a bad mood, she would also make an exception. She would use more methods to prevent the other party from dying in a short period of time, until the other party's body reached its limit and collapsed. For this Lu Yi, who had successfully angered her, the water spider decided to let the other party die 100 times, 1,000 times more painful than others. The sharp claws whistled. It came tearing. If Lu Ye's pink little face was hit by this, it would definitely be badly mutilated. In the next second, the water spider was ready to enjoy the enemy's painful screams. However, something unexpected suddenly happened. The sharp claws that tore at Lu Yi missed. The Lu Yi that was tied up in the spider's web had mysteriously disappeared. The water spider was sure that even a heaven ranker with the strength of a king would have to spend a lot of effort to break free from her spider web. Unless she couldn't continue to replenish the spider web, even a heaven ranker with the strength of a king would not be able to easily escape from this dragon binding capture net. This was the secret skill she was most proud of in her life. The dragon binding capture net, reverse water bubble, and water spider's poison were the 3 secret skills she was most proud of in her life. How could the enemy escape? Moreover, it was inexplicably escaping. Lu Yi lightly stood on the broken bow of the ship at the forefront of the deck. Beside her, there was an additional perforate deer. Unfortunately, the water spider didn't recognize it. Otherwise, the water spider would never have used a forbidden secret skill to deal with Lu Yi. Lu Yi had the perforate deer and the ability to teleport. Unless it was an absolute domain created by God's will, it would be impossible to make her stay, let alone imprison her for a long time. From the first day she received training from Yu Yang, Lu Yi was destined to become the most agile existence on the battlefield. More agile than the wind, faster than light. As long as it was a place that her thoughts could reach, no matter what kind of obstacles existed or what kind of space she needed to pass through, it wouldn't be a problem for this little girl who had been diligently training under Yu Yang. Want to escape? The water spider was extremely angry. It madly pounced over, its sharp claws swiping the air. You overestimate yourself. Lu Ye's beautiful figure disappeared and appeared 10,000 meters away. She landed on the back of her guardian beast, the perforate deer, at the same time. Teleportation. No matter how fast the perforate deer ran, no matter how far it ran, as its master, she would arrive at the same time. It was so fast that it surpassed time and space. As long as Lu Yi was willing, she could completely teleport back and forth 10 times, or even 100 times, before the water spider attacked her. Ah! The water spider lost control and screamed. She pounced towards Lu Yi, but no matter how fast she was, she couldn't even touch a corner of Lu Ye's clothes. Only now did she understand how fast Lu Ye's speed was. It was so fast that it surpassed her ability to think. As long as there was that deer, it would never be able to catch this annoying human girl. The water spider's successive attacks missed. It was so tired that it was gasping for breath, but it couldn't even touch the corner of Lu Ye's skirt. Facing this enemy who was staring at it indifferently, the water spider frantically screamed, "Don't be so proud. No matter how fast you run, you're still dead. You've been poisoned by my spider poison. There's no way to save you. In less than a minute, you'll be fine on the surface, but your internal organs and bones will melt into water. When the time comes, I'll definitely eat a delicious meal, suck you dry, and then keep your beautiful human skin as a trophy. Sorry, this kind of thing won't happen." Lu Yi stretched out the back of her smooth, white, and translucent jade-like hand. The small wound that the water spider had pretended to accidentally scratch just now had disappeared. Under the unbelieving gaze of the water spider, a ball of white light floated out of Lu Ye's palm. Within the white light was a spider-shaped purple spot. Under the flash of white light in Lu Ye's hand, that particularly disgusting spider-shaped purple spot disappeared like snow powder in a fire, and finally disappeared. Lu Yi lightly explained, "Now it's my turn to say sorry to you, water spider. I'll let you down. I have the perforate deer that can ignore all obstacles and the cleansing inherent skill that can purify all poisons and curses. With your strength, no matter what you do, you can't defeat me. On the contrary, if I want to defeat you, I only need to move a finger." As soon as she finished speaking, she appeared behind the water spider with the perforate deer. The water spider now knew fear. This Lu Yi was simply her nemesis. If she didn't escape now, she would probably be finished today. The water spider soared into the air in fear and flew towards White River City like lightning. She hoped to get away from the shipwreck area as fast as possible and rush back to White River City to get help from her companions. However, for Lu Yi, her lightning-fast movements were as pitiful as a turtle's crawling. The perforate deer and the one-body teleportation completely ignored space and distance. She caught up in an instant. Lu Yi intercepted in front of the water spider. Her slender, white index finger gently tapped on the water spider's eyebrows. This point had no offensive power whatsoever, but the water spider began to tremble in pain. It was as if something with boundless power was constantly melting away her body. The water spider trembled, and a poisonous mist-like black gas emerged from her body, enveloping her entire body in an attempt to protect it. In the end, the terrifying black gas formed a disgusting giant spider. Although she had the spider-shaped poisonous mist to protect her body, the water spider immediately discovered that the more violent the spider poison she triggered, the more pain her body felt. Lu Ye's lightly raised index finger was emitting a faint white light. The white light was extremely weak and almost inaudible. However, the spider-shaped poisonous mist was afraid of this white light like a tiger. Once it came into contact with it, most of it would melt. This is the cleansing domain that I recently comprehended. Because it's not mature yet, it can only be effective on one target. However, this doesn't hinder its characteristics. In my cleansing domain, any poison curses, evil thoughts, and other negative things will be restored to their original state of purification. If you are a good person with a kind heart, it won't have the slightest bit of power. On the contrary, the more negative things you have, the stronger its purification power will be. Now, you better pray that you haven't done too many bad things. Lu Yi calmly explained and turned to leave. Spare me. The water spider discovered that even her soul was constantly being purified. She was scared out of her wits and screamed, repeatedly begging for mercy. Actually, this is a chance for a new life. Before this, there was already a person who had been reborn and purified. She had almost eliminated the negative state of her body and obtained a beautiful new life. As for you, I hope that you can be like her and obtain a new life. Lu Yi left without looking back. When she left on the perforate deer, only a calm and firm sentence was left in the wind. Finally, you asked me what a miracle is. Now, I will answer you. This is a miracle. Chapter 1029. Steel Gate. Old Iron Anchor now understood that this young man who looked like a pretty boy was not a pretty boy at all, but a super strong person who was not to be trifled with. Judging a book by its cover was like an old hunter hunting geese. He had been hunting geese all his life, only to be pecked in the eye by the geese. Just this one mistake had caused an irreversible and unbearable failure in the grand scheme of things. He looked at the smiling Yu Yang and felt a great pain in his heart. If his life could be saved, old Iron Anchor would have sacrificed himself without hesitation. However, there was no turning back. No wonder Fu Ping had taken a liking to him. He really was a man worth abandoning everything to follow. Fu Ping had not misjudged him. She had always been perceptive and intelligent. What's your name? Old Iron Anchor tried his best to remain calm, pretending that the hundreds of elite guards' corpses in front of the steel gate did not exist. Don't you know my name? Yu Yang appeared very calm as well, not at all like an intruder who had just killed hundreds of guards. Then you are? Old Iron Anchor asked about Yu Yang's identity. If you want to know my identity, then I can tell you very loudly. I am the new prison emperor of Tong Tian Tower. Yu Yang laughed. He laughed like a little fox. Impossible. Old Iron Anchor denied word by word. He felt that this young man could be anyone. The Heaven Realm's hidden clan, the Tong Tian Tower's most talented pursuer, or someone else. But there was one thing. He could not be the new prison emperor of Tong Tian Tower. When the previous prison emperor died in battle, Tong Tian Tower had already fallen. The passage between Tong Tian Tower and Heaven Realm had also become completely sealed. For thousands of years, no one had been able to travel freely. Therefore, no matter how outstanding or powerful this young man was, he could not be the new prison emperor of Tong Tian Tower. Old Iron Anchor, who works as a laborer at White River City's East Pier during the day, is the Grand Marshal of the Heaven Realm's traitorous clan at night. Why can't I be the new prison emperor of Tong Tian Tower? Yu Yang asked curiously. What proof do you have? Old Anchor sneered. Now, he was 90% sure that this young man was the strongest hunter that the Heaven Realm Lost clan had trained with all their might. The Heaven Realm Lost clan hoped to use this young man to restore the glory of their clan and Tong Tian Tower. Hence, it was not impossible to nurture this young man as the new prison emperor. However, those Heaven Realm Lost clans and this young man in front of them would never be able to imagine how powerful the real prison emperor was, how majestic the real prison emperor was. The prison emperor, who was almost like a god, had at least 3 divine equipments. With his own strength, it was enough to shake the entire Western Heaven Realm. Even under the continuous battle between the Palace Master of the Central Shrine and the 3 great leaders of the Western Heaven Realm, they were still able to stand firm. Only the man who had shocked the entire Heaven Realm was qualified to be called Prison Emperor. Now you, a young junior, what right do you have to continue his position and be called Prison Emperor? Old Anchor had never fought against the Prison Emperor, but he had watched him fight from afar. Even to this day, Old Anchor's fear of the Prison Emperor had not subsided. Only such a man could be called truly powerful. Only he was qualified to be called the strongest in Tong Tian Tower, the Prison Emperor. Yu Yang kept looking at Old Anchor, smiling. He slowly took out the Prison Emperor Divine Seal from his storage ring and held it out in his palm. Not to mention the brilliance of this divine weapon. The pressure it emitted was far superior to any other divine weapon in the world. Even someone as strong as Old Anchor, the great marshal of the Heaven Realm Lost clan, could not help but feel the fear of kneeling in front of this divine weapon. The ancient curse that had been sealed deep within the deepest part of the soul immediately trembled when the Prison Emperor Divine Seal appeared, as if it wanted to respond to it. Even if Old Iron Anchor suppressed it with all his might, he couldn't resist the awakening of the curse. Yu Yang only held the Divine Seal in his hand and had not yet launched an attack. Its power was already as unyielding as this. Old Anchor's heart was immediately thrown into turmoil. His voice trembled uncontrollably as he cried out, "The Prison Emperor Divine Seal. Actually, I don't want to be the new Prison Emperor. I want to be myself." Yu Yang still maintained the smile on his face, as if he was chatting with an old friend. But the people of Heaven Realm are so damn stubborn. They either remember the Prison Emperor or the Conqueror Queen, leaving us juniors with no room for development. It seems that if I don't turn the world upside down like the Prison Emperor and the Conqueror Queen, I'm afraid no one will know my precious title, Titan Prince Yu Yang. Have you already opened the passage between Tong Tian Tower and Heaven Realm? Old Anchor did not dare to imagine how powerful this young man, who had the Prison Emperor Divine Seal and could open a passage from the shattered void to Heaven Realm, was. "No, but I don't need to open the seal. Do you think I'm the successor of the Conqueror Queen, who can freely travel between Tong Tian Tower and Heaven Realm with her treasure, the three-realm compass? I even went back to Tong Tian Tower's meteor shower ocean to take a bath. Do you think I'd tell you that?" Yu Yang's words made Old Anchor despair. He had inherited the Prison Emperor's Divine Seal and was the Conqueror Queen's disciple. He was immeasurably powerful, and he had the Conqueror Queen's three-realm compass. How could he fight against such an enemy? Old Anchor's heart was filled with regret. If only there was enough time to revive the distant ancestor. Even if the distant ancestor who had just been revived from the seal was still in a weak state and could not fight against this Titan Prince Yu Yang, there was still a chance for him to hide and slowly recover. When he was at his peak state, he would come out and revive the cursed clan. Now, the plan to revive his ancestor had already fallen into place because of the appearance of the new Prison Emperor Titan Prince. If only he could have a few more days, how good would that be? Old Anchor was so desperate that he wanted to kill himself. "You just kill me." Old Anchor gave up resisting. Whether this young man in front of him was the new Prison Emperor of Tong Tian Tower or not, as long as he had the Prison Emperor Divine Seal, he would not be able to fight him. As long as the Prison Emperor Divine Seal moved, even if he did not die on the spot, the ancient curse would be awakened and his body would explode. A divine weapon, especially a divine weapon like the Prison Emperor Divine Seal. It was not something a human could fight against. Even the three great leaders who had fought against the Prison Emperor in the past had no choice but to admit defeat in front of this divine weapon. What if I say that I can give you a few more days to revive that whatever ancestor of yours? Yu Yang smiled like a little fox that had stolen a chick to eat. What? Even Old Anchor, whose willpower was as strong as steel, couldn't help but cry out in shock. If I really wanted to interfere with your revival of your ancestor, I could have stopped you a few days ago when you were searching for me in the small steel fort. Hearing Yu Yang's words, Old Anchor suddenly realized that his premonition that day was not wrong. There really was an enemy who had snuck in. It was just that the enemy was so strong that even he could only suspect it. His search was futile. As long as you give us 10 more days, no, 8 more days, we will be able to revive our ancestor. Old Anchor knew that the other party was not easy to talk to, but he still held on to a glimmer of hope. Perhaps this young man was a little proud because he had the best thing in the world. He disdained to stop the revival and focused on fighting against his ancestor. That's not impossible. If that was the case, the Cursed Clan still had hope. There was no need for the distant ancestor to start a war with the new Prison Emperor after he revived. As long as he hid and recovered to his peak condition, he could gather the Cursed Clan from different factions in the Heaven Realm. With the greatest strength, he would definitely be able to fight against the Titan Prince. In other words, as long as their ancestor could be revived, there was hope. Old Anchor decided that no matter what the young man in front of him asked of him, as long as he was willing to give him a chance to revive their ancestor, he would agree. However, just as the hope in Old Anchor's heart reached its limit, a casual sentence from Yu Yang made him fall from the clouds into an endless abyss. Because what Yu Yang said was, even if I gave you 8 months, or even 8 years, you wouldn't be able to revive your ancestor, let alone 8 days. How could an old man whose soul had long been annihilated come back to life? Besides, the inscription inside isn't about revival at all, but about the opening of the seal on the ancient treasure ground. Old Anchor felt an invisible bolt of lightning strike down on his head, shattering his soul in an instant. The crimson pillar used to revive their ancestor was just an energy pillar to open the secret door. His first reaction was to deny it. However, the unquestionable expression on Yu Yang's face broke Old Anchor's heart. This young man wasn't lying, because there was no need for him to lie. This brat was telling the truth on purpose, so that he would suffer a greater blow. Why didn't you kill me earlier? Old Anchor roared in pain. He couldn't accept such an ending at all. How much effort and time had the descendants of the Cursed Clan put in to revive their ancestor, who couldn't be revived? Thousands of years had passed, and who knew how many people had sacrificed to revive their ancestor? Even he himself had struggled here for hundreds of years. All this effort and dedication had not been rewarded in the slightest. The truth was so cruel. If possible, Old Anchor didn't want to know the truth. He would rather die with regrets. He would rather let this young man kill him with the Prison Emperor Divine Seal as soon as he arrived at Steel Gate. At least that way, he wouldn't be as desperate as he was now. What I want to remind you is that as the new Prison Emperor of Tong Tian Tower, I have the right and duty to judge you traitors of Tong Tian Tower. Everything will be done according to my wishes. If I say pardon, then that member of your clan will live and be reborn. If I say to judge, then that member of your clan will have to pay the price for the sins he committed in the past. Yu Yang smiled slightly. Old Anchor, whether it's the coolie sailor who schemed against me at the Eastern Gate Pier, or the Grand Marshal of the traitors who have been active for thousands of years, you will never be pardoned. Now, you can say your last words. Be careful. Don't be too long. I don't have much patience. What could Old Anchor say now? Old Anchor raised his hand, preparing to smash his own head with a heavy blow. He didn't want to fall into the hands of this young man, and he didn't want to experience the pain of the ancient curse. Before he could act, he wanted to end his own life. At the thought of the primordial curse breaking out, a small face flashed across Old Anchor's mind. He had personally undone her primordial curse. Would she be pardoned and given a new life by Sir Titan's hands? If she could survive, perhaps she would occasionally think of her strict father. Bless you, my daughter. At the end, Old Anchor sent out a strand of precious kindness. Then, with a heavy blow, he ended his sinful life. He had committed all sorts of evil deeds in his life. He took pleasure in killing, and his ultimate goal was to collect human blood as a sacrifice to his ancestors. If he could say that he had done one good deed in his life, it would be to raise a disciple who was like a daughter to him. Chapter 10:30. After Yu Yang killed nearly 1,000 elite hybrid fishmen guards, priests, and Grand Marshal Old Anchor, who had attempted to resurrect the cursed tribe's ancestor, Tong Tian Tower, there was no longer any suspense in Tong Tian Tower's conquest of White River City. The White River City Lord, who often used the legend of the invisible fog to harm others, was captured by Impatience and the Southern Demon King. Even with the invisible fog domain, he could come and go as he pleased. Even the current White River City Lord, Mysterious Fog, could not escape from the Sky Law Empress, Impatience. Not to mention, there was still the Southern Demon King, who had improved greatly. The most powerful and secretive White River City Lord had been defeated, and the most cautious and intelligent Grand Marshal had fallen. Nearly 1,000 elites and priests had been captured in one fell swoop. The remaining upper echelons of the traders, such as the guild leader of the Steel Guild, Gu Ding, the White River City Lord's personal guard, Blue Whale, and the city's #1 warden, Dark Sect, had fallen under the attacks of Sky Execution, the Dragon Emperor, the Emperor of the Underworld, and other powerhouses of Sky Tower. Without a leader, the hybrid fishmen of White River City, although there were many of them, had no will to fight. When they found out that it was impossible to escape, and that Impatience had issued an order to spare death if you surrender, but kill those who resist, they immediately sent representatives to surrender. There was no need to listen to the captured White River City, Lord Mysterious Fog, Gu Ding, Captain Lan Jing, Warden Dark Clan, and other rebel leaders. White River City had been officially taken over. However, this victory did not mean that all the Tong Tian Tower traders had been eliminated. This was just the beginning. More Tong Tian Tower traders were still hiding in other areas of the Heaven Realm, concealing their tracks. Furthermore, the strongest Tong Tian Tower traders still held important positions in the Central Shrine. Their strength was not something the current Tong Tian Tower could contend against. How could they deal with these hybrid fishmen in the most secretive manner? Yu Yang did not care about this problem. He could not be bothered with these things. If he had the time, he might as well explore the ancient treasure area with Lu Yi and see if there were any surprises inside. Moreover, in this cleansing war, Sky Execution and the others did not use the name of the warriors of Tong Tian Tower. Instead, they used the name of the Tian Fa Empress conquering the Tianhua region. On the surface, to the outside world, the Heavenly Punishment Empress, who had just arrived to take over the Flowery Sky Domain, was executing the leaders and upper echelons of White River City, who had disobeyed the Heavenly Punishment Empress's orders and delusions of independence. No one would have thought that this was actually a war between the martial artists of Sky Split Tower and the traitorous clans of the past. It was the same for the hybrid fishmen in White River City. They too did not know the truth. They thought that the city lord and the upper echelons had offended the Sky Law Empress and attracted such a disaster. Only the captured White River City lord and the others knew the truth. Of course, they would never have the chance to say it out. What awaited them was a satisfying trial. The various clans in Tong Tian Tower were seething with excitement. Other than sending representatives to attend or listen to the trial, they also used this trial as a welcome to the Heaven Realm's remnant clans. The Heaven Realm remnant clan that had been wandering in the Heaven Realm for thousands of years could finally return home. Because of this, he was given a proper name. They were no longer the helpless remnant clans, but the executioners who swore to kill all traitors, the loyal warriors of Tong Tian Tower who would never forget. The representatives of various clans raised the grandest ceremony to welcome the return of the Heaven Realm Remnant clan, especially the warriors who were born in their own clan. The kings of the various clans of Tong Tian Tower came from thousands of miles away and personally came to the soaring dragon continent to welcome the heroes who had returned home in glory. The scene of tens of thousands of old fellows wailing together is too terrifying. Yu Yang did not want to participate at first, but he was the only one who could bring the Heaven Realm Remnant clan back. He had to participate even if he did not want to. Moreover, he was the new prison emperor in name. If he did not attend, how could those old fellows who had no choice but to stay in the Heaven Realm and become remnant clans because of the previous prison emperor's expedition to Heaven Realm be happy? Therefore, no matter how lazy Yu Yang was, it was still necessary to take the time to meet the Heaven Realm Remnant clan. Many of the warriors who went to Heaven Realm in the past were still alive, but they had become old fellows. When the kings of the various clans came and recognized each other, they naturally hugged each other and cried when they found out that there were many brothers and sisters, fathers and grandsons. Fortunately, these old fellows who had been recognized by Yu Yang respected and understood Yu Yang, the new prison emperor. They did not pester him too much. After Yu Yang promised to build a War Soul monument and a Don't Forget dojo in the middle of the plaza in the 6th floor of Tong Tian Tower, they consciously let Yu Yang go. Their respect for Yu Yang was still the same as the previous prison emperor's piety and loyalty. However, they did not expect that the new prison emperor, Yu Yang, was completely different from the previous prison emperor. Not only was he a lazy person, he did not even have the self-awareness of becoming a prison emperor. What Yu Yang needs the most now is to grow. Elder Nangong defended Yu Yang. Indeed, the new prison emperor is still far from the previous prison emperor. Training hard is a good thing. When the old fellows of the Heaven Realm Remnant clan heard this, they all expressed their gratification towards Yu Yang's diligence in training. If they knew that Yu Yang spent most of his time flirting with girls, and a small portion of his time was spent on treasure hunting. Occasionally, he would take some time out to train. They would probably be so angry that they would pull out their beards. No matter what, they had high hopes for Yu Yang. Especially when they heard of Yu Yang's miraculous growth, they hoped that this abnormal genius, who was rarely seen in 10,000 years, could surpass the previous prison emperor, catch up to the conquest queen, and once again lead everyone to conquer Heaven Realm. Yu Yang did not want to dampen the enthusiasm of these old fellows. After all, they had just returned and did not know the predicament of Tong Tian Tower. With Tong Tian Tower's current strength, conquering Heaven Realm 3 times? They didn't even have the qualifications to become food. If they really did that, they would be looking for trouble. Those fellows in the central shrine would definitely laugh happily. Treasure hunting? No, I'm not interested now. With regards to Yu Yang's suggestion to explore the ancient hidden treasure, the Peepa Girl, Southern Demon King, shook her head and rejected his invitation. I don't have any free time these few days. Impatience also expressed that she was very busy. Because of the matters in Tianhua domain, she almost didn't have time to sleep. Didn't you guys like to hunt for treasures? Yu Yang was surprised. If it was that easy, it wouldn't be called an ancient hidden treasure. After the Southern Goblin King saw the unsealed red energy crystal pillar, she completely dispelled the idea of retreating. Just opening the seal was already so difficult, not to mention going in and exploring it. Even if they killed the Sun King, they were still blocked outside the divine grimoire space. Hence, Impatience and Southern Demon King had a cautious attitude towards the ancient hidden treasure. There was definitely something, and it might even be extremely good, but would they be able to get it in the end? It was hard to say. You guys seem to want a coolie like me to go in alone and get the treasure, then come back and split it. Yu Yang saw through their foxtail. Sir, you really know how to joke. How could I be such a person? Southern Demon King still refused to admit it. If it's not suitable for us, we definitely won't want it. Impatience, the Sky Law girl, was also very skillful in her words. If it was not suitable for them, they wouldn't be able to use it even if they wanted to. Naturally, they wouldn't want it. How cunning was the person who said this? Yu Yang had finally seen it for himself. I'll go with you. Maybe my perforate deer can be of some use. Lu Yi, the little girl, was still the most sympathetic and decided to accompany Yu Yang. I won't disturb you two anymore. Southern Demon King hugged Yu Yang and kissed him. She quickly slipped away, afraid that she would be caught by Yu Yang. I wish her a successful and rewarding return. Impatience stretched and went back for her beauty sleep. When I return, I will definitely not forgive them if I don't see 2 smooth female slaves kneeling at my feet and begging me to whip and ravage them. Yu Yang was furious. He accidentally said what was in his heart. Lu Yi, who was beside him, blushed and couldn't help but feel embarrassed. Although Southern Demon King and Impatience refused to accompany him, he couldn't search for treasures and enjoy his blissful sexual life at the same time. But he still obediently followed his disciple. It wasn't too boring. After opening the seal one by one, the energy of the red crystal pillars shot up to the sky. The energy of the light pillars intertwined and weaved together, forming an unimaginably huge and mysterious ancient giant formation high up in the sky. Seeing this giant formation in the sky, which was at least 1,000 miles wide, Yu Yang couldn't help but take a deep breath. It seemed that this time's treasure hunt wasn't going to be an easy one. But now that the seal had been activated, it would be too late to retreat. If he didn't enter first and take out his secret treasure to let those guys from the central shrine know and rush over, he would probably be out of the picture. With such a huge and obvious sky anomaly, Yu Yang knew that he couldn't hide it for long. The adventurers from the outside world would swarm over. He who strikes first gains the upper hand. Yu Yang brought Lu Yi and flew towards the center of the giant formation in the sky. He didn't expect his heaven eyes divine vision to be able to observe the entire giant formation in the sky. This was a huge and complicated ancient formation. Even if Yu Yang had heaven eyes divine vision, it would take him at least a year or two to completely look through it. Yu Yang didn't have that kind of patience, and he couldn't wait for a year or two to figure out the situation before searching for treasures. By then, it would be too late. The center of the giant formation in the sky was extremely complicated. It was not just a single layer of rune circle, but a three-dimensional one. There were hundreds and thousands of layers of ancient rune circles stacked on top of each other. Each layer was rotating in a different way, and at the same time, it was also changing into different shapes. After looking at it for a few seconds, Yu Yang immediately gave up. He originally thought that he would be able to understand everything in 1 or 2 years, but now it seemed that he might not be able to understand everything even in 1 or 200 years. With this ancient runes interweaving in the sky, the sickly beauty would probably be the happiest because she could finally spend a long time researching on it. My head feels so dizzy. Lu Yi followed behind Yu Yang and looked at the giant formation in the sky. She felt dazzled and didn't know where to start. Wait outside for a while. Wait for my signal before teleporting over. Yu Yang naturally wouldn't let her take the risk so easily. After all, Lu Ye's strength was far from being comparable to the Southern Demon King and the Impatience. If she encountered any danger in the giant formation in the sky, Yu Yang was worried that she would be hurt. Lu Yi nodded. She indicated that she would wait patiently outside and told Yu Yang not to be anxious. Yu Yang raised his creation domain and slid into the rotating giant formation in the sky through the gaps of the ancient runic formation. In the central area alone, there were hundreds and thousands of layers of ancient runic formations. It was as wide as 30 square kilometers, and the height was at least 10 kilometers. It was incomparably spectacular. Yu Yang, who had sneaked in, felt that he was even smaller than an ant that had climbed onto a 5-layered birthday cake. Lu Yi pursed her lips tightly. She didn't stop him from entering, but she couldn't help but worry. In the central area, there was a core that was as bright as the sun. The power emitted by the core was even stronger than the will of the gods. For the first time in his life, Yu Yang felt that it was difficult to get close to it. It was even more difficult than the test of the gate of life and death. This was a place that those without sufficient strength would definitely not be able to get close to. That kind of power would make anyone who entered feel a sense of inferiority and inferiority. They would feel that they were too small and didn't deserve to get close to it. No matter what you are, I'm going to touch you. Yu Yang had always had the temper of a donkey that would rather break than bend. This powerful core prevented him from getting close, but he just had to reach out and touch it. The Nirvana flame ignited, forming a Nirvana fire phoenix in the world creation domain. Yu Yang leaped on top of it, riding the Nirvana fire phoenix. He held the Black Gui Tsang and White Shuang Hua in his left and right hands respectively. He exploded with the greatest power in his life and rushed towards the ancient runic core that was as huge as a skyscraper and as bright as the sun. A power that was even more terrifying than the pressure of the gods descended like a mountain. Yu Yang felt that his body was extremely heavy. Even his soul felt as if it was being held by a giant hand, and he couldn't move. If it weren't for the Nirvana fire phoenix and the 2 swords protecting him, Yu Yang reckoned that he would be easily blown away by this kind of power, like a straw in a hurricane. The gap was really too big. For the first time in his life, Yu Yang felt that his power was so insignificant. Could it be that this was the divine sense left behind by the ancient giant god? Or was it the will to protect the ancient secret treasure? Who left it behind? Was it the supreme dragon god who had once caused the demon dragon's expression to change? Or was it the awesome person who sealed Her Majesty, Queen Vivian Li, or something else? The closer Yu Yang got to the core, the slower his speed became. When he was less than 100 meters away from the core, he felt that his speed was 10 times slower than a snail's, and with every centimeter he moved forward, he felt that his body was 10 times heavier. Impossible. This core couldn't be approached at all. Even Yu Yang, who possessed an unshakable Zhizun's will, couldn't help but doubt himself. Qi Shao Yin. Yu Yang shouted loudly, clasped his hands together, and formed the third sword, Qi Shao sword. However, the Qi Shao sword, which he had condensed with all his might, only helped him advance half a meter forward before he stopped moving and stopped in midair. If not for the help of the creation domain, Yu Yang would have been bounced 10,000 meters away by that pressure. Little Wenli automatically flew out of the grimoire world. She condensed a serpent demon goddess war statue that was hundreds of meters tall in the sky. She raised her hands high and tried her best to push Yu Yang's body forward. Even the serpent demon goddess war statue that could shatter the void and almost pierce through the black hole only pushed Yu Yang 3 meters forward before completely stopping, unable to advance any further. Right now, he was at least 90 meters away from the surface of the core area. These 90 meters was an insurmountable moat for Yu Yang. Orange light sword. Yu Yang let out a roar that resounded through the clouds. The huge golden sword, which could shatter the heavens and earth, appeared in front of Yu Yang. It carried Yu Yang and little Wenli, who was pushing forward with all his might, and advanced another meter. Just 1 meter. The orange light sword had reached its limit and could no longer advance any further. Just as Yu Yang was about to retreat, the golden crown thorny flower queen Duo, who had been sleeping in the grimoire world, suddenly woke up and flew out of the grimoire. Bloom! Duo emitted a refreshing fragrance. Countless flowers bloomed around her body, turning the entire creation domain into a world of flowers. Yu Yang felt his strength recover infinitely, and his ability increase greatly. He was ecstatic. This Duo usually did not reveal herself, and kept a low profile. However, her help now was not below little Wenli's. It was really beyond his expectations. With the help of the golden crown thorny flower queen Duo, Yu Yang slowly advanced another 3 meters away from the core area. Little Wenli might have felt Duo's great help to Yu Yang. She, who was competitive, would definitely not allow others to help Yu Yang more than herself. She first thought silently, and after thinking of a way to operate it, she summoned her grimoire. With the help of Stone Element Medusa, Storm Mermaid, Thunder Naga, and Ice Serpent Demon, she reached out and pressed her hand on Yu Yang's back. A ray of white light that could purify the world shot out from her small palm. It penetrated Yu Yang's body and shone straight into his soul. Yu Yang couldn't help but roar. His body crazily advanced 5 meters, while little Wenli, Duo, and the others were unable to catch up. They could only look at Yu Yang, unable to provide any help at all. Everyone had already used all their strength, but the distance was still more than 80 meters. Should I give up? Yu Yang was unwilling to give up. He had never been the kind of person who would give up halfway. However, when he looked back, little Wenli, Duo, and the others had exhausted their bodies to the limit. Especially little Wenli, who had exhausted herself twice in a row, could faint at any time. Fine, I'll try to. There was a voice that he hadn't heard for a long time. Then, Yu Yang felt that he was hit by something, and his whole body couldn't help but fly a few meters away. He looked back in pain and found that it was the naughty Qilin girl Bingyin. She rushed over for the second time and hit Yu Yang's back for the second time with the small horn on her head. Yu Yang screamed in pain. This girl was simply murder. She didn't think about how painful it was to hit someone's body with her horn. Qilin girl Bingyin rushed over for the third time and knocked Yu Yang 5 meters away. All of a sudden, she lost her strength. She returned to little Wenli and Duo, panting, and waved to Yu Yang. You go up by yourself. I'm exhausted. This is not fun at all. Yu Yang was speechless. If he could move forward again, why did she hit him with her horn and hurt his back? Did she think it was comfortable? But now, he was a little reluctant to give up. Not only little Wenli and Duo, but Qilin girl Bingyin also came out to help him. Now he was only 70 meters away from the core. It was just a little distance. Did he have to give up? Burn the universe? Yu Yang roared, and his fighting spirit broke out again. He was not a Saint Seiya. Of course, he would not burn the universe, but he still had a unique skill, which was rampage. In the case of losing his mind, he could exert several times more power than usual. Although it was risky to do so, at least he had to try. This guy's going crazy. Let's go. Qilin Girl Bing hurriedly dragged the worried little one Li and Duo to retreat. Yu Yang gradually lost his mind. He felt that there was a hidden power in his heart, like a volcano erupting. It seemed that something was summoned by himself. A talent that he had never felt before was awakened. At the same time, Yu Yang heard the clear cry of the phoenix. In his last consciousness, he seemed to see two little Lolas stepping on the phoenix, holding him and flying to the core area. 60 meters, 50 meters, 40 meters, 30 meters. When their power reached the limit, Yu Yang's mind completely fell into rampage. He seemed to feel that he was pierced by a sword. The sword seemed to pass through his body and move forward with him, firmly nailed on the energy core of the ancient rune. Yu Yang couldn't think. He had completely lost his mind. There was only that kind of destructive tyranny left. He made a move based on his body's instinct and consciousness' natural, uncontrollable impulse. That was to swallow the huge, ancient rune energy core in front of him. Chapter 1031. Yu Yang felt like he had had a very, very long dream. In the dream, many things happened. He saw many people, some creatures that he had never seen before, and some life forms that he had never thought existed. They were all around him. The world of dreams was an extremely beautiful world. Even if all the languages in the world were poor, they still wouldn't be able to describe even 1/10,000th of it. In the dream world, Yu Yang felt that he was always accompanied by a pair of little Lolas. They were very small and very mischievous. They often ran around him, not willing to be quiet for a moment. On the other hand, there was a very familiar big Loli who quietly stayed by his side without saying a word. No matter where he went, she would follow him, just like his shadow. If he turned around to look at her, she would smile and still not say a word. In the dream world, there were many people. These people seemed very familiar, but when he looked closely, they were very unfamiliar. He could not remember any of their names. Regardless of whether they were men or women, these people walked past him without stopping at all. They also ignored Yu Yang's questions and greetings. Even if they met each other, they would walk past him as if there was no one else around or talk and laugh with their companions. Then, they would gradually walk away and disappear behind him. Many extremely rare creatures, or life forms that Yu Yang had never seen before, flew past Yu Yang as if they were going to the market. Some of them even chased after each other halfway, and some even broke out into fierce battles. Most of the creatures in the dream were docile and kind, and the more docile and kind the creature was, the more beautiful they were, and the more powerful they were. There were a few ferocious ones, but they were also quite powerful. But as soon as a battle broke out, they would be expelled from the country by unknown people. This dream world seemed to be a detailed world. No one was allowed to use force easily, and no one was allowed to attack casually. Isn't that my creation orb? In the dream world, Yu Yang accidentally discovered that his creation orb was in front of him. In a broken void, it was constantly absorbing some kind of energy. When Yu Yang stepped into the broken void, he was shocked to realize how huge it was. This shattered void was unimaginably huge. Yu Yang couldn't see it with his eyes, so he could only sense it with his mind. He felt that if this shattered void was to treat this soaring dragon continent as a point, then it could at least contain tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of such points. He entered the shattered void. Yu Yang made an even more shocking discovery. Other than the shattered void, everywhere else in the dream world was a single point. The only difference was the size. Some were much larger than the shattered void, and some were smaller than the shattered void. From a distance, these innumerable dots interwove to form a sphere of light. Then, if one were to widen the sphere of light further away, there would be countless more spheres of light, and then widen the sphere to the limit, the spheres of light would interweave to form a sea of light. Beyond that sea of light, there would be even more seas of light without end. It couldn't be helped. Other than feeling humble and insignificant, Yu Yang couldn't express any other emotions. Not to mention a person, even a world, compared to such a huge system, was just an insignificant grain of sand. There were more dots of light than sand, the spheres of light formed by the countless dots of light, and then the seas of light formed by the countless balls of light. Everything inside was moving. If one stared at a place, Yu Yang would realize that the trajectories of some of the dots of light or balls of light were vaguely similar to the ancient runes, while the trajectories of the balls of light and the seas of light were like the legendary ancient runes. When Yu Yang realized this, the innumerable worlds that were even more numerous than sand all rushed towards Yu Yang. Countless knowledge and energy frantically surged into the shattered void where Yu Yang was. In an instant, the entire shattered void was filled to the brim. Yu Yang felt a sharp pain in his head, almost as if it was going to explode. Even when he obtained the inheritance of knowledge in the past, he didn't have this kind of feeling of immediately exploding. The most terrible thing was that Yu Yang's brain, which could accommodate Sister Xin Yang's inheritance of knowledge and the fusion of the countless predecessors of the world tree, couldn't even hold on for a few seconds. Yu Yang estimated that just the capacity of one ball of light was enough to make him explode, but there was still the sea of light formed by countless balls of light and countless seas of light. Yu Yang was shocked. If this continued, his life would be over. The world creation orb in his hand suddenly flashed with a dazzling brilliance. It absorbed the energy and knowledge endlessly, replacing Yu Yang to share the overwhelming pressure. There was also the summoning grimoire. Unknowingly, it had already floated out on its own. The world was also crazily absorbing that kind of energy and knowledge, crazily sublimating and growing, advancing and improving at a speed visible to the naked eye. There seemed to be something behind Yu Yang. It was absorbing the knowledge and energy instilled into Yu Yang to the greatest extent. But Yu Yang couldn't figure it out. What was it? Was it a treasure? Was it a guardian beast? No. Maybe it was the second grimoire that he had never successfully summoned before. The divine grimoire that he had only seen in a daze. Yes, it was diverting the pressure from him. Yu Yang wanted to turn around to take a look. However, the huge instilled pressure made him unable to even blink, let alone turn his head. Under that kind of pressure where his brain was about to explode, the pressure was still unbelievably huge even though there was a diversion. Yu Yang's mind was gradually unable to take it. Forget about accepting the energy and knowledge from countless light seas. Even accepting a single light ball was already difficult enough. After all, a ball of light was formed by countless light spots that were even more than sand, and each light spot was equivalent to an incomparably huge broken world of the void. Why am I like this? Why am I inexplicably accepting the energy and knowledge of those light spots, balls of light, and seas of light? Yu Yang couldn't understand. The moment before he lost consciousness, he felt as if there was a hand pressing on top of his head. There was a kind of extremely gentle energy that penetrated straight into Yu Yang's soul. That kind of feeling was as if Yu Yang's brain had suddenly been opened up. In an instant, the capacity of his brain had been greatly expanded, allowing Yu Yang's painful brain to feel at ease. Who was it? Who was helping him? Before his consciousness could think too much, Yu Yang fell into a coma. When he woke up and opened his eyes, he found himself lying in Lu Ye's arms. The little girl's face was stained with tears, and she was crying very sadly. In the sky above his head, the 1,000 miles wide sky formation was still there, but the central area and the core had disappeared, as if they had never appeared. Other than this change, Yu Yang also felt that in his spiritual world, the pearl of creation had somehow run into it, and it seemed to be accompanied by a world of the void that was no longer completely broken. Inside, there was an unknown, huge world of the void that was slowly healing itself. There were still places that were broken, but a lot of it had been reduced. A vast sea of chaotic energy that came from nowhere was quietly stored inside. It was so huge that Yu Yang didn't dare to touch it. He was afraid that if he moved, it would cause an earthquake that was even more terrifying than a landslide. With so much chaotic energy, such a huge world of the void, and the divine weapon that had evolved from the pearl of creation to the god of creation, Yu Yang suddenly had a feeling that he was the creator of this world. As long as he was willing, he could use the chaotic energy to create anything at any time. The only pity was that Yu Yang himself didn't have the ability to control such a vast amount of chaotic energy. This feeling was like a child opening a warehouse and discovering that he had gold that was taller than a mountain and more than the sea. He could build a gold palace at any time, but because he was too small and weak, he couldn't build it. Forget it. I can't do it now, but one day I can. Yu Yang had always been an optimist. You're awake? Only now did Sister Lu Yi realize that Yu Yang had woken up in her arms. She immediately screamed in surprise. You don't know how worried I was. You scared me to death. How many days did I sleep? Yu Yang felt that his whole body was different, but he couldn't tell what was different. 3 days. You have been asleep for 3 whole days. No matter how I called you, it was useless. If it weren't for Xiao Wenli and Duo and Lady Bing Yin who said that you would be fine and told me not to move, I would have gone back to the Tian Fa Empress to ask for forgiveness. Lu Yi cried and laughed at the same time. Seeing Yu Yang wake up again, she felt that this was better than anything else. If she had known that treasure hunting would be so dangerous, she would never have agreed with Yu Yang to search for the ancient treasure. Even if she accompanied him, she would not have agreed to him breaking into the central area and breaking into the core of the ancient runes. Ah, fool, how could I be fine? I just fused with the ancient runes and slept. Yu Yang pretended to be relaxed and laughed. He reached out and stroked Lu Ye's head, gently wiping away the tears on her face. I was really worried. Lu Yi apologized a little embarrassedly. When Yu Yang sat up, he found that his body was faintly discernible, and there were countless ancient runes flashing. Could it be that everything in the dream was true? Or could it be that his body had swallowed the ancient rune core that was intertwined with countless layers? The people and things that he met in his dream, were they all historical memories of ancient times? Those creatures or living beings that had appeared, were they all in history? Not to mention those for the time being, who was close to the core with him. Shieling girl Bing Yin, she had definitely appeared, and the Phoenix sisters seemed to have also appeared. The heavenly sword goddess seemed to have helped him with her sword. Yu Yang was not too sure. In the dream, in addition to the creation orb and the summoning grimoire, there was also something behind him. Could it be the divine grimoire? Finally, who was the person who pressed on his head to open up his brain before he fainted? Were those things real or fake? The more Yu Yang thought about it, the more confused he became. However, according to his lazy rule, he would not think about things that he could not figure out. Anyway, one day, the truth would come to light. The divine grimoire could not be summoned in a conscious state, so Yu Yang could not examine it. The creation orb had a new advancement and new changes, which was clear at a glance, but it carried a broken void world, which was full of chaotic energy that was about to overflow. Yu Yang could look, but he did not dare to move, for fear that if he moved, he would not be able to control it. The only thing that could be taken out to observe was his own summoning grimoire. What happened in the dream, was it real or fake? Yu Yang stretched out his hand and summoned his grimoire with his mind. As a result, a burst of colorful brilliance bloomed, and a summoning grimoire floated in the air amidst countless flower-like brilliance, emitting a completely different brilliance and power from before. Holy grimoire? Yu Yang looked at the familiar yet unfamiliar summoning grimoire in front of him, dumbfounded. When did his summoning grimoire evolve into a holy grimoire? Yu Yang did not know at all. Moreover, looking at his own holy grimoire, it was different from the holy grimoire that disappeared before the Heaven Empress died, the holy grimoire that Ji Zun fused with after defeating the Heaven Empress, the ancient Demon King's holy grimoire, the Heaven Realm Great Leader Void's holy grimoire, the three great leaders Ming Yu Guang's Holy Grimoire, the Sun King's Holy Grimoire that he had killed not long ago, and the Holy Grimoire that Yu Yang had seen the most and was most familiar with, Queen Vivian Li's Holy Grimoire. If it was not for the fact that Yu Yang had completely fused with the Holy Grimoire and knew that it was a Holy Grimoire the moment he summoned it, he would have suspected that it was a godly grimoire. Wasn't the power of this Holy Grimoire a little too great? For a moment, Yu Yang could not help but have the heroic spirit of, with a Holy Grimoire in hand, the world is mine. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.